But in your seat.
There's a teacher, he can say that.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order. If we could please, it's 5:30. Dave is recording at the point. Mary, would you call order, please?
Okay, Mr. Kirby.
Here.
Mr. Lopez.
Here.
Mr. Hennis.
Here.
Mr. Wright.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
Dr. Battle, you're up. First thing is, I believe we have a great presentation here this afternoon.
Yes, sir. Let me make sure I get into the, I'm a little slow, sir.
That's all right.
Okay, background, yes, sir. Okay, so we have AC Space Symposium presentation that is all set and ready to go. Thank you. Please introduce yourselves and we'll get started. Thank you.
Do you guys want to, I'd like to show a video first?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks. Will you introduce yourself after that?
Yeah, of course.
Thanks.
But that's good. Okay, how's it going, everyone? Pause. All right, my name is Tino. I'm a senior at Cascade Union High School.
My name is Elato, and I'm also a senior at Cascade Union High School. Jonathan Lawson, I'm also a senior.
My name is Ella Barth, and I'm also a senior at Union.
So we just skipped the countdown, but we'll get to the point, right? We'd like to show you guys a quick video first of our.
We can't miss a countdown.
I want to see it all.
That's half the fun.
That's half the fun.
Which one of you are we sending into space, by the way?
To return from space.
All right, yeah, go ahead.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I got you. Let me close this up.
There you go. There we go. All right, how's it going, guys? I'd like to thank everyone for being here. I'd like to thank the board for taking the time to listen to us tonight. I would like to thank the parents back here who would also take the time to listen to us. I would also like to thank our advisor, Ms. Morse, for being able to coordinate this event, and our CTE director, Ms. Miller. So today, I want to present a little something we've been working on. I'd like to ask you guys a question first. So in that video was a launch that we saw, you can tell. So how many high school students do you guys think were in that video?
30.
Yeah, 20, 30?
20, 30?
I'll say 31 if we're playing by prices.
So how about just a couple? The rest are university students. We are the only existing high school in the state who are on aboard this project hosted by the Arizona State Consortium and NASA. So today we'd like to talk to you guys about the High Altitude Payload Project, ASCENT. So a little bit about it. NASA Space Grant is a nationwide program funded by NASA. NASA offers plenty of opportunities for representing the people who are not represented enough in the field of science, field of technology. what's great about this is that even people like us can improve our skill, improve our innovation, our excellence in this project. So the whole purpose of this project is we take a payload about yay big, no more than 3 pounds. We integrate it with a lot of hardware, electronics, technology, and sensors that can detect things in the stratosphere. So the ASCENT meaning stands for Arizona Scholarships to Challenge and Educate New Discoverers. So it's a big workforce development program. If you guys ever heard like Skills USA and like those kind of things, this is similar, but in the university level domain. So it's really great for people like us. We first started on the projects back in August of last year. Our first rookie semester of this was August of our junior year. And we went to a really cool workshop hosted by Phoenix College. We stayed there for a couple of days, had some fun, you know, and the Space Consortium wants to host these workshops all throughout. So if you take a look, we got a spring one, we got summer, fall, spring, and then it starts again in fall. So the spring one, taught by Ms. Morris, high altitude balloon at CAC. And then we got our summer one where they attend a workshop, 2-day workshop at Phoenix College. That was our ASCENT project last year, our very first workshop. In fall, we launched our first semester, so we launched in November. And then in the springtime, we launched our second payload. So we have 2 consecutive launches in different semesters. It's really cool. A lot of our colleagues enjoy it a lot. We meet a lot of new people at these universities. It's a great opportunity to learn a thing or two from college students who have been there. I would say we're really no different from those college students, other than like, you know, we're just high schoolers, right? No student loan debt, nothing like that. So we have time to enjoy it, right? It's really cool. There's a lot of colleges on this project. Embry-Riddle, I think U of A was on the project too. So a lot of cool colleges out there. Really good opportunity for a small group like us to present ourselves in a way that school cannot. It's a very small minority at our school as far as STEM kids who pursue such highly developed technical clubs like this. For us, it's nothing new because we all kind of know each other and we just know what the deal is, you know. There's a lot of cases in our school where we're one of the only high schools in the country doing things like this. So for example, we have a club like Students for Space Exploration, which is ASCENT. Originally, we were like one of the first high schools in the country. Now there's 5 high schools in the country out of hundreds of universities on this active project. And the universities have no problem with developing high schools like us because to them, it's an investment in the long term for hardworking students who come in the future. So here's our team. We got Neil Lotto. That's him, our programmer. We got Jonathan.
Also a programmer.
We got Ella Bard, okay. Our tech computer person for interns, anyone interested. Then we got me, who's our systems integration person. So all those people that you see, it's just kind of us presenting, but we have a lot more on the team. Well, our team was a lot bigger in the second semester because our first semester where it kind of just came to play was more like a test years, like let's see what we can do, right? So we started with a small group, and in the second semester, a lot more people came, a lot more underclassmen showed up, which is good because that shows that, you know, we can have people in the future for these kind of things instead, because it's just us seniors presenting this, right? So it really shows. So our mission statement, we'll design, construct, test, and fly a sensor payload to gather data about the atmosphere. I find this really interesting because our mission statement can be interpreted in any way we would like it to. Teams can take a payload and do anything they want with it. Measure anything we want in the atmosphere, test anything. It's all about the hardware. We use it to activate sensors that can do these kind of things. And then once we all kind of come back to the ground, you know, we share some progress, you know, see what's going on. Hey, who successfully launched it? Who did it? Oh, no, you know, and they talk about, you know, oh, what went wrong, what went right. You know, it's all about testing and designing, the engineering process.
So again, our science question for this basically is our overall research question for this project. And it took a long time for us to come up with this question, but the whole purpose behind the ASCENT project is to measure different properties of different atmospheric levels. And so we've chosen to discover or figure out where the ozone layer starts and where it ends. And so to do this, we are going to be measuring this by testing ozone and oxygen, as well as ultraviolet radiation or UV. And so as the payload ascends through the atmosphere, we should expect to see a lower level of oxygen going into the ozone layer, and then a higher level of ozone going through it, and that will switch once we're out of it. And then as we approach like UV radiation, that is protected from us by the ozone layer. So when we are going through it, before we get there, we're not going to see very high levels of it at all. And then as we come out of it, we should see much, much higher levels, since we are usually completely covered by that in our day-to-day lives.
Okay, so these were all the sensors that we were using for our last payload that we do plan on using. We're making a little bit of a change. So we are going to be using the same camera that you see up there, and then we will also continue using the UV sensors, but the BMP-280 will be switching to BMP-390, and we're using that so we can record pressure, humidity, and temperature. And the reason why we're switching to 390 is that this is a sort of upgraded version for higher precision. That way you can get better measurements while you're up there in the atmosphere. So again, we're doing the oxygen and ozone. We're sticking with those sensors because they seem to work okay for us. And then for our controller board, we're going to be using an Arduino Mega. It's a microcontroller. So those sensors that I showed here, so the oxygen and ozone, for example, and the UV as well. So if we plug those into the Arduino Mega here, we can run code on the microcontroller. And what that'll do is it'll tell the sensors to start recording data, and we can tell that data to be put on some mass storage device, like a micro SD, for example. And once we're finished with our launch, we can take our payload, open it, and then look onto that mass storage device, and we can see the data we collected.
So this is our enclosure. That is what the payload looks like for last year. So on the video that you guys watched at the beginning, this payload, I believe it was this one, was the third from the bottom on that. And the series of payloads, looks like there was about maybe 10 on that string. They're all attached to one weather balloon that comes up. So it's ours along with many other schools. But that's the one that it looked like last year. It's a hexagon there. This year, we're deciding to go with a cube, so just a box shape. It'll allow for more space for the electronics and everything to go inside, as well as the camera. And we will be using insulation board, and we are looking into carbon fiber because we do have a supplier, and we will also be using plexiglass on the top as well.
Did you say you had a weight limit?
Yes, 3 pounds.
3 pounds?
So this is some example of the code. So how it goes is this is programmed in Arduino IDE, which you can upload onto the Arduino Mega. So what this code does is every 5 seconds it would make the sensors run, and then we get the data. After the data is collected, it would go into an SD card. And after the launch, that we could then observe. It shows the data, and then we can then show it onto an Excel sheet. So this is just some pictures of the fall 2021 launch. As you can see, it's a jumbled mess. So
That's not organized chaos, is that what that is?
that was the aftermath. Don't worry. So
Yeah.
after the weather balloon explodes, it shatters, goes straight down to the earth, and then it jumbles around our payload a bit. So that's just aftermath. And this is our spring 2022 launch. So on the right, you see some pictures of maps. So ASCENT gave us an app that we could use to track the weather balloon as we try to follow it and try to get to the destination. So for example, once we get to ASCENT launch, we make sure our payload our batteries work, our sensors work,
and we hook it up to the weather room, and then we watch it blast off.
All right, so our science mission to forensic investigation. So here's a couple errors that we had in our actual presentation. So it's all trial and error, right? Every payload that we launch, we're always going to come up with something that might be an error. That leaves a lot of room for us to test our payloads. One example was we had a plan to put our payload in a freezer because in the stratosphere, you're looking at negative below temperatures, right? So we want to see if our sensors can withstand 9-volt batteries, right? 2 9-volt batteries that connected into our payload withstand such temperatures. So that managed to work out. However, in our fall launch, our data card error resulted in loss of all data. So somewhere in the air, our data card actually like slipped loose or something like that. If that's happened, or was that in the spring?
Our data card, the meter broke.
Right. And so because of that, we weren't able to collect any data. Some other teams face similar situations, just not in the exact form, because like I said, this is very diverse on how you can approach this project, approach it any way you like, just so as long as it requires a brain, right? So our spring launch, would you like to talk a little bit about that? Because that was kind of your thing.
So our spring launch, we had some mishaps. So our power supply, when we launched it, it was working for a few seconds, but after those few seconds, it just cuts off. So once we launched, so we thought it launched with the intention of it working, and then when we came back, we just saw our battery just wasn't connected, and we didn't receive any data.
Right. So on similar to that, on our fall launch, we're sitting there, we're tired. It's 6 in the morning, right? We're sitting there. We got a key in, and we're like, is it on? Is it on? Make sure it's on. We don't want to send it up there, and then the electronics are off. So I'm like, it was on. It was on. It was on. It was on. Unfortunately, though, we came up with another problem, right? So things like that happens, common. Our entire goal this year, actually, we'll talk about it later, in our current mission to launch it again this November. It's something similar to that, to how we go. So this was the Symposium of the spring launch. Would you like to talk about it, Tom? So this was with our bigger team, right? So we had a much bigger team at this time. Same thing goes every fall and spring. We have a team. We have like hundreds of people in this one giant hotel room, and everyone does a presentation on the project. Everyone does a presentation on their payloads, what they did to it, what they did together. So you learn some pretty interesting things. Sometimes you'll have teams of like 15 people. Other times we had a duo that was doing it. So on the matter of ethic, right? So some people were like, not all of them were like completely like full-fledged college students. There was one guy who was retired. He was like, I'm just taking classes for fun, right? So he's running, C++ in his little payload, and he's doing good. It was an excellent payload, right? In which case, our presentation up here was one of them. We presented to a large team, presented what our payload was about. We do that typically every semester. It's kind of the traditional thing, and then everyone goes to sleep, wakes up, crack it on, goes and launches the payload, right?
So how long are the payloads up in the air for?
So you're looking at about 3 to 4 hours.
Okay.
3 to 4
And
hours.
you're tracking it in the
We're tracking it, right? We're chasing it down. We got the GPS going. We're
Assuming the power doesn't go out.
right. Assuming the power goes. Wouldn't that be a shame if the GPS failed on us and we're just like, we don't know where the payload is, right? So we're in the bus. We're going around the desert looking for the payloads. We're following the GPS. Is it there? Is it there? And then we're like, oh no, we're in the wrong location. So we go to the other place, right? So we're kind of just tracking it down for those remaining hours. So I'd say in the first hour or so, the payload's still going up in the air. So you got some time to kill. You're just sitting there and then you're like, okay, we gotta go. So we go. These dates. September 24th, Casper Union High School is hosting a ham radio workshop where you can actually get certification and really cool technical job or technical skill. We got some other workshops right here. November 18th, we got the ASCENT pre-launch workshop. That is pretty much the one we attend every year. November 19th, we have the fall launch. So the presentations and everything that I talked about just a couple minutes ago, always the night before. Everyone's there. People come from this place and that place. They come from Northern Arizona, everywhere. So yeah, and then March, our second pre-launch workshop, same thing goes, and then April 1st, the day after our launch. Pretty simple. April, we got our Arizona Space Symposium as well. So those are some pretty important dates that we keep in mind. That's kind of where everyone gets together. We also have meetings online to talk about our progress. Sometimes people share advice or help that they do because we have a couple people from Phoenix College that willingly donate their knowledge to us. And for example, like in last August, we had a couple young college students. They were teaching the people there how to solder. They were teaching them how to do 3D modeling on Fusion 360. So it was kind of like a skill-based workshop, teaching you some basic skills needed to actually do project. And that's exactly what we ended up doing. Most of us, we all can do computer aided design. That's like back by heart to us. And so we find ourselves doing that exact thing. We're, you know, in the engineering room at 100 till like 8, 9 at night sometimes, you know, just soldering away, just doing what we got to do because we want to get this payload done. Because we want to have a lot of time, a big interval time to test our payload to make sure we're not just sending up, you know, a pile of junk in the air.
And a question, so what are you working on as far as what you're planning on? Are you planning on launch in November?
We are planning to launch this
And
November, that's correct.
what kind of different things are you looking at testing this year, or maybe just kind of maybe cleaning up a little bit of what you did before, or what are you thinking for November?
And that's exactly what we're gonna do. So we had two different, kind of in the same domain, but two different questions, first and second semester. So our decision was to go back to our first semester question because we wanted to improve our hardware, make sure it works this time. So we wanted to measure O2, O3, ozone in the atmosphere, right? We're gonna go back to that this year, and we're gonna see what went wrong. We're gonna see what went wrong, redesign it, retest it. We were thinking about using some different electronics if we had the time, but we're kind of sticking to what we're familiar with because better safe than sorry, right? Currently, we're familiar with Arduino, but we also talked about using a software called Raspberry Pi as well. So yeah, to answer your question, that's exactly what we're doing. We're going back to our first semester question, testing O2 and O3, and we already have the sensors. We got everything we need, right? So we can do this. And I'd say we could do it in a much shorter time period because not only do we have a completely functioning idea of how our payload is going to work, we might change the physical structures of our payload. So, and if I could go back a little bit here, you can notice the shape of our payload was little, did I miss it? Whoops.
Yeah.
Of course.
Keep going.
There, right there. Sorry. Okay. So in that one, we had these plastic. I could almost describe them as like plastic little clear plates that go in each corner right there, and we would place mountain our electronics right there. Easy to access. One problem we faced with that though is there was a lot of wiring issues. Wiring issues as in, oh, we don't know where this goes or that goes. More wiring issues as in like, oh, it's a wiring mess. So we observed a lot of the payloads that a lot of people made last year. Some people kept some real simplistic designs. Like some of them had like a rectangle. You open the lid up, and on that lid you had the hardware mounted onto it, and it, you know, circuits and electrons were all just there, ready to go, right? Work on it, easy to work on. So in this one, we had a lid that was on it, and then we had that little metal pole that went through it that connected to the weather balloon. So this year we were talking about making more of a box/rectangular kind of design because we have a box design in the shop already from a former student a while ago, and we use that foam because it's insulated and it keeps the electronics warm inside. We don't want to use like hard plastic because electronics could probably freeze or something like that. We were even discussing like, hey, let's make like windows all over the place, make it look cool. And then we're like, oh, come to think of it, it is up in the air and it's like -40. But so that's the thing, that's the reality of it. It doesn't always have to look pretty as much as we want it to function first. And like I said, it's very diverse in however you want to use it. The consortium is very easy they pretty much just bring all the teams together to say, make something out of this or that, make a research question, make a hypothesis, make this, because we want results back.
You have lead time, so you are building this and assembling it at school before you take it to the presentation, so you have the ability to
we work on
test it or et cetera, or.
Right, we work on it. Engineering's a 6 hour. We'll work on it a 6 hour. We'll work on it after school. One time we were there till like 10:30 at night. One time, just making sure it works, right? Sometimes that's what we have to face, and that's things like that aren't necessarily new to us. And the kind of clubs we are in, the extracurriculars that we are in, we find ourselves doing that a lot. In my robotics team, I find myself staying until late at night, right? On the days that I can, on anything else. So this is not, the ASCENT project is not a club, it's a job. It's a job. And yes.
I was just gonna say, this is so cool.
I appreciate it.
But I wanted to take a minute to commend you guys for doing this, but also reaching out to underclassmen. It sounds like your club has expanded. You guys have been incorporating people who aren't seniors. And I'm proud of you guys for doing that. And it's also just so important, to make sure that this continues after you guys are gone. So we're excited to see what you guys do at this next launch. And I'm really excited to see where this goes next year and the year after and the year after. And so I just want to encourage you to continue reaching out to people younger than you, kids younger than you, to get them involved in this, because this is school and it's everything a school is supposed to be. What you guys are doing.
What grade are the 4 years?
Seniors.
Seniors, all of you seniors?
Yeah.
Good.
Once upon a time, engineering was very selective. You do interviews again. Back when there was an existing STEM program on campus, this is the things we had to do. So how do we do selective lists now? Well, in being selective, we have things like this where some people can do it, some people can't. I'm not sure if you guys are all familiar with Mr. Razzo. I like to listen, I'm like, do this, you're Mr. Razzo's son, you're like the math wizard, right? And he did it, he's my buddy, right? And he's an engineer with us, he's been in there for 2 years. He's rocking it, he's doing his own thing. And so just those kind of things, reach out to freshmen. I would argue in the past couple of years, engineering has grown a lot in freshman size. Our class was like 15, 16 people, now we're down to like 7. But that's nothing, because some classes had 20 and then they were down to like 3 or 2 by senior year. So people just don't find it, interesting at all. And that's the reality I accept, at the school when I'm doing, I'm an honest man, okay? I'm not gonna sit there and say, oh yeah, everyone can do this, right? Because it is a hard job. It's stressful sometimes, right? So.
You got one question right here?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, actually one. Am I on? Yeah. First of all, thank you. Fantastic. I had a chance to talk with a few of you all when we had the open house last year. This is wonderful. I'd like to know, what are your goals after you graduate?
You go first.
So I plan to go to university and try to get a bachelor's in computer science and maybe transfer over to a master's and hopefully get a good job.
I also plan on going to university and getting a degree in computer science. I want to get a master's, so I get my bachelor's and then go into a master's program.
I also plan to go to university, specifically ASU, and I plan to major in computer engineering and start with a bachelor's, then probably work my way to a master's as well.
That's great.
I am currently working on trying to go to either Northern Arizona University or the Air Force Academy, the Naval Academy for mechanical engineering.
Awesome.
Long road ahead.
That's awesome. Well, I commend you, and I think I'd be remiss not to recognize Mr. Morris. Would you please stand?
And hopefully we'll keep our fingers crossed. You're launching in November sometime.
Yeah.
We are on to November, that's correct.
Come back and give us an update. And hopefully
You'll see it on the newsletter too.
Anyway, thank you guys so very much.
Thank you, guys.
Space to fund frontier. We're down to item C, which is the presentation, and Dr. Strom is spring for the diet.
Yes.
Is this gonna be as exciting as the?
I was just about to say, I love you, Dr. Strom, it certainly will not, if anyone wants to say that. It would not.
Mr. President, members of the board, this presentation is an annual requirement via Arizona State statute regarding bond and override expenditures within the district. As you are aware, we try to make sure everything in this district aligned with the strategic plan. This is just a reminder of the strategic plan initiatives in the district. This override presentation is really what it ends up being about is positive, safe, and healthy learning environment. As most of the money distributed into our M&O pot goes to ensuring activities for kids like the one you saw today. Just as a reminder, ARS 15481Y, each school district that currently increases its budget pursuant to this section is required to have a public meeting each year where they discuss how your override and bond expenditures were applied. And there's one section of 1541 that talks to overrides, one section that talks to bonds. This district, by the way, it does not have any bond expenditures because the last time this district ran a bond, to my best calculation, is in 2005. And the reason I think it's around 2005 is because your debt service is about to expire in 2025-26. In short, you expended the money when the bond sale happened. It probably helped to build something like Vista Grande High School in 2008, 2009. And now that all that's happened is you have no expenditures, you're just paying off the debt to the bondholders that hold those bonds. So there are no bond expenditures to report. And so what you have left is you have the override information. This district's been on an override, a 10% override for dating back to 2003, 2004, although at a recent Rotary meeting, we were reminded by Dr. Demizio that maybe even extends even further back to 3 decades. The override was reauthorized again in November of 2018, and the first year of that override was 2019-20. We are currently this year in the 4th year of the override, and we're going out for an early renewal in 22. You have until the 5th year to get full renewal from your voters. And that renewal is just a continuation. And that means continuation-wise, it doesn't affect the tax rate. And in fact, the tax rate that you can see below is this follows. In 2021-22, it generated $2.7 million worth of budget in the M&O pot. In 22-23, which is this year, it's anticipated to generate about $3.1 million of override dollars. The tax rate for the override last year was 43 cents per $100 of a limited assessed evaluation. And this year, the tax rate's 42 cents per 100, 42.7 cents per 100 of assessed, limited assessed valuation. Why would the tax rate decline when you're generating more money? That's generally because your commercial and residential property values have gone up. So as assessed evaluation goes up, as more homes go up, you have more distribution of that generation of $3.1 million across more homes. As more industry comes in, i.e. Lucid, i.e. I almost said Tesla, i.e. Nikola, i.e. Kohler, i.e. all those companies that come into this industry, you get to distribute that tax that you need to generate the $3.1 million across a wider base, which helps the tax rate go down. And by the way, the overall tax rate in this district has went from $2.99 per 100 of limited assessed evaluation down to $2.82 of limited assessed evaluation. Why is it declined so much? Folks, there's a statutory element to tax rates in which, as the assessed evaluation goes up, the QTR, the qualifying tax rate, goes down. The state of Arizona has protected property owners by having this in effect, that as assessed evaluation goes up, the QTR goes down. And so part of that's just valuations are up, so QTR goes down, as well as the override going down by a penny. As well. So what's the override support? It supports athletics, AP teachers, performing arts, security, extracurricular activities, and attracting and retaining highly qualified staff. And just so you're aware, in this district, we project code everything. Ms. Salazar project codes everything to project code 140 that we pay for with override funds. So all total here in FY22, we spent $3.662 million on things that are project coded to project code 140. That is over the override amount that you saw generated of $2.7 million. So the extra $900,000 just comes out of the M&O pot. The override essentially is not a separate pot of money. It all goes in together with the M&O, and so it's up to us in coding in code 140 and accounting for things on how much money is accounted for with athletics, AP fine arts, security, and CTE. What we expect for 23 is we expect that security number to go up. It was $385,000 this last year, and Dr. Battle and the principals worked with the governing board to support 2 things. Thing number 1 is we increased the rate of pay for security because we were understaffed in security in the prior year. They moved up approximately 10 job classifications. And now due to the fact that the governing board approved that those pay raises for security, we're almost fully staffed in security at both of our schools. And then that's accompanied with the fact that due to safety of students being the highest priority in any school district, we also increased the number of security staff at both Vista and Union for this year. Currently, I think Vista has 8 and needs to hire 1 more, and Union has 9. All that means is that next year, I expect that $385,000 number to probably double, to be quite frank with you. And that will contribute to where we're spending the increase in override funds from 2.7 million to 3.1 million this year. All total percentage-wise, about 46% of our budgets in the override spent on AP Fine Arts, about 19.4% spent on CTE, like the programs you saw earlier, 10.5% spent on security, and 24% on athletics. The way it shows up in athletics to the highest degree is your pay-for-play program here is $50 for pay-for-play fee. That's as low as I've seen in my travels around districts in the district. My kids are currently in high school. And I know sometimes people go, why didn't they come down here with you and go to school in Casa Grande? They would have, but they had their friend group already established, their sophomores and juniors in high school. And the only reason I'm bringing all this up is because their pay-for-play fee is $150 in the district they go to. A lot more expensive. So why can you keep the pay-for-play fee so cheap? You can keep it so cheap because the override is in play and helping support athletics to the tune of about 24% of the override budget is to athletics. That is our annual report that is required by state statute to give to you on the override, and I know that was significantly less exciting than what's going on.
When's your next line?
Any questions you guys have?
Matt, can you just clarify,
Yeah.
you mentioned we're in year 4
We are in year 4
of a current override, correct?
of a
And
current
there's a
override.
reason why you said early, but there's a reason why you go out now.
Yeah, most districts will go out in year 4, hoping that the continuation of the override and voters support the continuation of the override, because there's not a tax increase associated with it, because it's already built in tax rate. And then if it does not pass, you have another attempt at going out to voters in the 5th year and asking for that reauthorization without it having a budgetary impact. If it doesn't pass 2 years consecutively, it's pretty easy math in this district. It generates about $3.1 million. And that would mean in year 6, you have to cut a third of that off. In year 7, you have to cut another third. And then the final year, you're down to 0. So it gives you 2 opportunities. This is something most school districts in the state of Arizona try to do with already approved override in place. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that everybody was cognizant of the fact that the override has been in place for years. It goes specifically to these line items that you mentioned here, and for the safety and for these other programs. And if the 301, if the override doesn't pass, that these are the implications going into the future.
Correct. Yeah. Any other questions?
Any other questions from Matt?
Oh, can I just say this? I always used to not appreciate it when I did the work on preparing the slide deck and then someone else presented. So I just want to thank Ms. Salazar for throwing together this presentation. So thank you, Jim.
Yeah. You get that right?
Yeah, you bet we're.
Yes. So we're doing something just a little bit different for the review of policies. As you know, in education, every year, policy revisions are brought forth to governing board members. And therefore, we want to make sure that you have a good snapshot of what each are. So those of us that are championing each one of the policies, when they're assigned to them, will provide an update with a brief synopsis for your first read. And then, of course, we'll bring it back to you for approval at a later date. So with that said, I have Dr. Even, Dr. Strong, and then also Ms. Jennifer Fortson. Their policies are up for adoption this year.
I tell you, this was much clearer than reading and seeing in the past where we have line items marked across and trying to read through each of the different things, trying to figure out what was what, who was who, and what was being changed, et cetera.
What have you done?
And I really appreciate just the clarification on that. And you're gonna kind of hit some of the highlights and walk through these, it's very important.
Yes, and you may ask questions as need be. And again, I thank you for that, Mr. Ennis, you all have busy schedules, and we respect and appreciate your leadership and your time, and I'm glad to know this is very helpful. Oops.
Yes. And just as a question, as I've kind of gone back through and you read these, how many, these are, most of these are influenced by the legislative?
Yes. Yes.
It was a very active legislative cycle this last spring.
Yeah, I'd say.
So I'll go ahead and initiate, and then you all will chime in. So what is the issue each year? As I share, the Oklahoma State Legislature revises, develops, passes new legislative items, and as a district, we want to make sure that we don't violate any policy that must go into effect in September. Based on all of the issues that schools have experienced, there have been some changes, and therefore we must abide by them. So policy advisors are then developed by legal counsel and then published to school districts throughout Arizona as example policies that districts may adopt. So what we've done here in Casa Grande is you can see sections that have been assigned to leadership. So section A, of course, and B and C deal with superintendent and governing board. So those would be mine. Dr. Strom, his position in leadership is fiscal management, support services. Both he and Dr. Even will be championed, as well as facility development with Dr. Strom. Meet and confer, which would be with Dr. Strom and myself, instructional program under the leadership of Dr. Even, including students under J. She will, and I will share a little bit of that depending on extracurricular activity. Section K is about school and community relations, as you all have hired our wonderful Jennifer Portson, who's championing that at great leaps and bounds. We appreciate her, as well as section 11, education agency relations. So starting off would be student services, Dr. Even.
That is me. We'll just briefly go through the recommendations or what the legislation is telling us and the implications for our district, and then our recommendations regarding the policies that you have in full detail, I believe, in the board packet. So this policy, JRR, is related to student surveys. And we are currently following the current policy, but HB 2161 adds a requirement that we provide a copy of survey to the parents with a form and obtain written consent prior to surveying our students and administering the survey. So again, that will require us to do that, and we are recommending approval of the policy as provided through the ASBA document. Next one is HB 1, 2.
Okay, so HB 2025 requires governing boards and charter schools to, in a public meeting, develop and adopt policies to allow for visits, tours, and observations. Schools may not require anyone to wear a mask or face covering unless under a long-standing safety rule not related to COVID-19. So the proposed impact is to a policy developing procedures for visits, tours, and observation, which is required by law. And the administration recommendation is to recommend approval of proposed revisions to policy K5. Okay, I believe the next.
The second is yours, yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay.
Slide, there we go, okay. Does it say parental involvement? Great, okay. Parental involvement, HB 2161 and HB 2439 are two parental rights bills that substantially affected policy KB and its corresponding regulation. The law requires school districts to create procedures enabling parents to request access to school district and employee electronic records that relate to their child. KB now has this requirement listed in the policy. The regulation was amended to state that parents seeking the types of records listed in 15-102 and 15-143 may request the records from the district office. The proposed impact of this new policy requires school districts to clearly state the procedures for parent access to written records pertaining to their child and to information about the school's library collection. And it is the administration recommendation to approve the revisions to policy KB. Thank you.
It's me again. So this is policy IHAMB, Family Life Education. This relates to the use of sexually explicit materials and very clearly states that there should be no use of sexually explicit materials except in governing board approved sex ed programs. We do not teach sex ed in Casa Grande Union High School District. And
Just say that one more time.
we do not teach sex education in this district. And we recommend approval of the policy as written. This is me again. JLBC, immunizations of students, requires that we cannot use the HPV or COVID-19 vaccination as a requirement for school attendance. It does not have an impact on our district at this time because we do not require those vaccinations as a requirement for attendance, and we recommend approval of this policy.
Policy GBGCB is in alignment with the policy. The reason we put them together, that's in alignment with the policy on behalf of students, and that we cannot require immunizations for staff in regards to COVID-19. So we can't also require, this was mentioned earlier in the student policy, in terms of visitation, mask or face coverings by state statute, any longer. Changes are required by statute, recommend approval of changes of this policy.
Me again. Policy JLCC also relates to the requirement of masks. It prohibits us from requiring masks for students. Will have no impact on current practice as we do not currently require students to wear masks, and we recommend approval of this policy as written.
Policy BIA accounting systems, current policy being followed. HB 2179 adjusts that school districts must apply to two entities now to take control of their accounting systems, the State Board of Education and County School Superintendent's Office. Our accounting responsibilities are with Pinal County. We do not foresee ever getting away from Pinal County as the accounting supervisor for the school district. No impact to Casa Grande, so we recommend approval as Pinal County will remain as our accounting responsibility manager.
Policy IHA, Basic Instructional Program. This designates 9/11 Education Day, the date that is closest to 9/11, if 9/11 is not on a weekend. And it requires schools to provide education for a portion of the school day. And so it requires us to formalize 9/11 instructional programming on all campuses. This has been happening on a more informal basis. And so we've been working with the schools to ensure that all students will receive instructional programming on it will be 9/12 this year. We recommend approval of the policy as written.
Does the state provide any, after mandating, does the state provide any kind of material?
So per the law, the State Board of Education is required to provide additional educational materials as well. Yeah.
That's great, thank you.
Me again. So this is regarding the certification requirements for our school counselors and psychologists, and basically that it exempts certain licensure requirements, and they only need ADE certification prior to hiring a school psychologist. And we are recommending approval of this change in policy. Me again. The policy regarding hazing. And this, it requires us to redefine what it means for a person to commit hazing. and to classify and communicate that it is a class 1 misdemeanor, or if the hazing results in a person's death, a class 4 felony. And defines what it means for a person to commit hazing, planning, or organizing, and classifies violations as class 2 misdemeanor. This will require us to amend the definitions of hazing in our student handbook and also in our discipline matrix, and we recommend approval of this policy. Graduation requirements, me too. So this is regarding the civics test that is required for graduation in the state of Arizona. Currently, the passing percentage required for that assessment is a 60%. This law is requiring that change to 70, beginning with the graduating class of 2026. And so this will require, obviously, us, it impacts the students that are falling below that 70 threshold. But the good news is we have 3 years to make sure that our students are ready and able to get that 70% passing grade. And we recommend approval of the policy. Again, intramural sports. This policy and the one right after it relates to the designation of teams based on the biological sex of participating students. It requires that, this one is for intramural sports, that sports teams be designated either male, female, or co-ed, and that teams are limited, students are limited to participate based on, in the sport that for their biological sex. We do not need to change current practice as we are currently, current policies that we follow, and we recommend approval of the policy. The next one, as I mentioned, is related to interscholastic sports, similar law. No change needed to current practice. So similarly, the teams are designated by their biological sex, and students participate based on their biological sex. And also, this also provides remedies for students if there's an alleged violation. And we recommend approval.
And that's for AIA.
AIA as well, yes. So we follow AIA rules and, yeah. Somebody else now, transportation.
Policy E is transportation services. This was in regards to the massive driver shortage that's occurring throughout the nation, and that's occurring in the state of Arizona and becoming fully staffed. The reference I'm making there is it allows school districts to not use 11 to 15 passenger vehicles, which means that the driver does not need to have their CDL. This is not an economical way to transport kids. I want to be really clear that some districts are just in a position where they're going to have to use 11 to 15 passenger vehicles. They just can't find those drivers. The other part of another bill is that this allows us to start owning electric school buses. The cost of an electric school bus is between $400,000 to $500,000. It's subsidized a lot by the federal government. We'll get into our third-party transportation services here about electric school buses. There's some ancillary benefits, but I do want to be clear that they are cost prohibitive right now. So the school bus runs around $130,000. It runs on diesel. So they're preparing for the future as well. So on this bill and helping them with the current bus driver crisis. Recommend approval. And the next bill links that previous bill. There's no impact to CGUHSD on this bill. But this has to do with the types of licenses that drivers need to have for non-bus vehicles, think of non-yellow vehicles, non-mainstream vehicles that run 60 to 80 passengers. Recommend approval.
Me again. So this student admissions is regarding the Certificate of Educational Convenience. It is an opportunity for families who may have a difficulty attending due to transportation or other hardships, the school within their attendance zone, and it provides an opportunity to apply for a Certificate of Educational Convenience to attend a school that is more convenient for them. And those applications are submitted to the county school superintendent, and we recommend approval. This is your
Policy GCBAR is a regulation. The regulation to this policy has a couple things that are counter to our current salary schedule. One, it states that only $1,500 is for national board certification, and it's actually $2,000 on our salary schedule. The second being horizontal committee is not met for quite a few years in the school district. So we recommend removal of GCBA regulation. Policy GDO is evaluation of support staff members. This is something that is an attempt to get more in alignment with common practices in the state of Arizona throughout school districts. The current policy requires evaluation of a new employee at 3 months, 6 months, and 8 years. That is atypical. It is typical to have a 90-day mark in which you evaluate an employee, and a year-end evaluation of evaluating the employee. With the onboarding of several new support staff this year, this will help administrators follow evaluations and make sure that we have timely submission of all evaluation, including honoring the 90-day mark for the evaluation process. We're moving essentially from 3 evaluations in the first year to 2 evaluations, and then annual evaluations from there on.
This is me again. So this is regarding library materials selection and adoption. And there's a lot of small print up there. But basically this law requires us to make sure that we have an inventory and provide a list of books on request. And so we will be working to create systems for reporting any newly purchased books and inventory all the books that we currently have on our library shelves, and also working with the webmaster to post all of that information, and we recommend approval. And I cannot find the cursor. Where did it go? There it is. And me again, resource media center, school library. Oh no, I just went through that one. Didn't change. There we go. IMD, school ceremonies and observances. This is regarding the a daily moment of silence of 1 to 2 minutes that all schools are required to hold with their daily announcements. And we will be adding this into the daily announcements at each site, the Pledge of Allegiance and morning announcements, and add this language to our parent resources and the website and the policy, and we recommend approval. And the last one, again, teaching about controversial and sensitive issues. This basically prohibits us from usurping the fundamental right of parents to direct the upbringing, education, health care, and mental health of their children. The policy on teaching controversial issues, IMB, is amended to reflect that teachers have a great responsibility to educate students, but that parents ultimately direct the upbringing, education, healthcare, and mental health of their children. And so we currently practice and support this, the right of the parent to direct the upbringing, education, healthcare, and mental health for their children. And we will continue to support our site principals on delivering that message, and we recommend approval of this policy. That is it for all the new laws and policies.
Any other questions, other than a little occasional, maybe a little typo or something like that? Everything looks pretty good.
And again, when they are up for review, it would be our pleasure to answer any additional questions after you have a little more time.
At this point, it is 6:29. We have a moment to, we'll go ahead, we'll adjourn this meeting and give us about 5 minutes, and then we'll start into the regular meeting. And after that point, we are just a couple minutes. Thanks.
It just says strips.
Anybody else has any pink cards? Got 2 right now. I thought I saw 1 student. Yes. It's like school, nobody wants to sit. I know.
Just stand in the back, we got more chairs up front.
Yeah, there's one, yeah. We're gonna go ahead and call this to order. If we could please, it is 6:37 and Mary, do the roll call please.
Mr. Kirby?
Here.
Mr. Lopez?
Here.
Mr. Hennis?
Here.
Mr. Wright?
Here.
And Mrs. Harrington?
Here.
First up, please, is Pledge of Allegiance. We'd all stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you would please, just a moment of silence. And I thank you. First up is item A, under 2, to adopt our agenda. Need a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I move.
Second.
There's a motion by Taylor and a second by Chuck. Mayor will go ahead and call for the vote, please.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hennis?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mrs. Harrington?
Yes.
Also before you have the minutes from August 9th, 2022 as presented. There's no changes or additions to that. We'll go ahead and take a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll move this one.
Second.
Taylor moved and Chuck seconded. Mary, the vote, please.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hennis?
Yes,
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mrs. Harrington?
Yes.
that's great. Thank you. Dr. Battle, we're up to recognitions. We're down to students of the month.
Yes, thank you very much. If I could have both principals come up and then also Ms. Miller, so that we can provide the recognitions to our students at our hands.
Yes, sir. Good to see you. Would you like to go first, sir?
I'd be happy to. Good evening, Governing Board President, Governing Board Superintendent, Dr. Battle. It's my pleasure to be before you this evening to recognize one of our students. I'd like to invite up Kyan Demarest. Front and center. All right, and I would also like to recognize his mom. That he spent some time pointing out that she's done an amazing job. When we asked him to kind of write out his summary, he gives a lot of kudos to his mom, Ms. Demarest, and who's also another faculty member of ours. So thank you for sharing that. This young man has done a number of amazing things in his high school career to be recognized tonight. He participates in athletics, both the cross country and tennis. He is an honors student and has contributed in honors classes, AP classes, and our dual enrollment classes, where he's received credit in each of them. Classes such as honors English and bio, CAC English, his honors chem. And he's done this while he's been working for many of his years over at Walgreens. Additionally, he's seeking a degree, or he's seeking a program of study at Cabot. So he's in their dental program, and it sounds like he really likes to get in there and get dirty. Some of the things that I think really impressed me is not only his goals, but who he contributes his success to. So he hopes to graduate in December. So that's pretty amazing already that he's wanting to do this on a fast track. He hopes to plan to go to Minnesota State University, Mankato, where his mother went, and to pursue that dental degree to be an oral surgeon. So that's pretty amazing. As he had an opportunity to recognize some of the important adults in his life, not only does he recognize his mom, who's done an amazing job for him, he attributes a lot to her since his father's passing and how much the workload's been. But he also says the following about some of the teachers that have impacted his life, and I just want to read a few of them. He says, "My new guitar teacher, Mr. Daig, is amazing. I love that man. He's been my favorite teacher this year." He says, "I love Mrs. Jackie for being a therapist and amazing teacher. Shout out to Mr. Malik. And I think this is what really is neat about him is he understands where value is at. He says, I shout out to Mr. Malik, one of the hardest, yet my favorite classes ever because he made challenging work fun. By the way, he also passed his AP test. Congratulations, and thank you for your hard work. We'd like to present you as Rotary Student of the Month for Cascade.
I can get one without. We'll stick after. I'm not trying to get one without.
Sorry.
We'll do both. We'll get,
We'll get one
okay.
of them and then.
Yeah,
we'll
one
get
of
two,
that.
okay? Yeah, open it. Okay, get in there, Mom.
All right. Let's not lose that. Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Congratulations. What color is it? Red? Yeah. Freezing, says Mary, not cold, freezing.
That's too high.
Yeah, anything's improvement.
Good evening,
Mr.
Mr. President, Madam Superintendent. Happy to be back up here presenting students, what we're here for, and our student Rotary of the Month will be Miss Annika Gates. Annika's parents' names are Heidi Gates and Brent Gates. List of activities and school accomplishments that Annika has. She's student council, student body president, which means that she's one of the students who has the opportunity to come read the announcements in my office on a regular consistent basis. She approves of every single joke that I tell. She's junior class president her junior year, sophomore class treasurer sophomore year, Key Club 9th through 12th grade, member of NHS, a member of Link Crew, a member of SAC, and she carries a 4.2 GPA. She played softball her sophomore and junior years, and some of her personal accomplishments, which is this is very major. She has completed 150 volunteer hours, including at the Valley Humane Society, City Street cleanups, and school cleanups, and St. Vincent de Paul thrift store, and many, many more. She plans to attend an in-state university, not sure which one yet, and she's undecided about her future major, but she's going to be exploring careers in dental and veterinary. Assuming if she's going to be going veterinarian, she's probably going to be okay. I have no skin in the game with either one of the schools, so this is what I can get.
You've done that.
Congratulations, best of luck.
Congratulations.
President Hades and other board members, I too am very happy that we are recognizing students tonight. So I'm happy to get back into the season of having a student of the month up here from our various programs. Tonight, we are honoring the daughter of Tyler and Bridget Anala, and that is Emma Anala from Casa Grande Union High School. She is part of the agri-science program. So come on up, Emma. Okay, so this is for you. Thank you. And Mr. Farnsworth, our ag teacher, is here tonight too. I thought I saw him. There he is. These are his words honoring her this evening. She's a 10th grade student here at CGUHS and is a first-year agricultural student and a member of the FFA. She brings her enthusiasm and excitement for life to class each day, and you can always count on her greeting you with a smile. She is one who can be trusted and has a great work ethic. I can always count on her to get things done as she strives to do her best and takes pride in her work. Emma is currently serving as a student intern for our program's Cougar Country Market, which she has developed the experience as her SAE, that is a supervised agricultural experience, work-based learning project, that's a requirement of FFA. And she is very active in FFA, attending our chapter meetings, and is currently participating in the etymology career development event on a team. Yes. Okay, and her team is hoping to win at the state level this year. Arizona's FFA Spring Conference is held in June. Anyway, this spring. She is a straight A student who excels in all she does. She's very polite, respectful, and works well with her classmates. Emma is a well-rounded student who is part of varsity cheer. She's an exemplary student we are very fortunate to have here at CGUHS and is part of our agricultural program.
Can we introduce them?
Thank you. And her parents are Tyler and Bridget. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
There you go. Thanks, and congratulations. Dr. Bell, you got employee recognition?
I'd like to pause for a moment. You know, as we are very excited about recognizing our students on our campuses, we also know that there has been great devastation and loss within the last few years. And not only in the district, but also in the elementary school district and in the city. And so just putting things in perspective, that we've got some amazing kids and parents that are here today. I want to thank you for that. Nothing's promised. Tomorrow is not promised to any of us. So I just want to say congratulations, well done. Appreciate your support, parents. Continue to do that, but also want to lift up the family with loss in prayer and hope that you're all thinking about them, because that's very real and unfortunate. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay. I do have a recognition that I'd like to share and read a little bit about it, but if I could ask Mr. Mab and Stacy Brady to please come up and stand before me while I read your wonderful comments. Stacy Brady, come on up. I'll start with my comments. So this fantastic educator that I'm blessed to know, and all I've seen from her since I arrived is called stamina and purpose and love for what she does. And understanding that it's not an easy task to teach and learn and plan and develop teachers. I just can't thank you enough for what you do and have done on a regular basis and continue to do. Your husband told on you today. You worked a little bit too long this 3-day weekend. I want you to take care of yourself too. Okay, but if you don't know, Miss Brady has championed so much here, not only during COVID years, but even in planning outside of that. A number of you have read and unfortunately may not know fully the challenges that we've had in the science department. And CNN decided to capture a little bit of that. And she did a great job with sharing, being very transparent with our issues, not only here in Casa Grande, but across the country. But I would just want to make sure that you understand the dedication that she did, as I had the opportunity to call a meeting to say, hey, if we start school tomorrow, what should we do? And we start school early in July. And so we went to we put on thought partners. We had a subcommittee work with Mr. Mab and also Ms. Brady, and also under Mr. Dancy's leadership too. It was a district support. And Stacey was able to develop a plan, the best plan that we could have. And she stepped up to the plate and decided to take on more kids than we would like to have her take on, with support of some other amazing educators throughout the school to help support that. And I just can't thank you enough without having your wisdom, your servitude, and willingness at what you do on a regular basis. I'd be remiss not to have you recognized this evening. So I want to thank you, and that's from me. I do have a few comments from your amazing principal. Stacy Brady graduated from the University of Arizona with a bachelor's degree in microbiology and immunology. Very good. She had planned to become a doctor, but her childhood dream of becoming a teacher moved her to get her teaching credentials from NAU, and she began her teaching career in 1999 as a long-term sub in 6th grade health and typing classes at middle school in Tucson. In 2000, Stacy was hired as a first-year teacher at Casa Grande Union High School as a chemistry teacher. Over the past 22 years, Stacy was hired as a first-year teacher at Casa Grande Union as a, we'll go back there, first-year teacher in Casa Grande. But she also taught chemistry, biology, honors biology 1 and 2, pre-AP biology, and meteorology, investigative science. Stacy took a break from the classroom teaching in 2007 to 2010 and was selected one of 2 instructional coaches in Casa Grande Union High School District. Stacy has been the science department chair at Casa Grande Union since 2016 and has served on the curriculum cadre since 2015. She is also the student council advisor. She just has all kinds of time. and senior class advisor. Most recently, Stacy completed the Modern Classroom Project Mentor Program. Very few people have done that across the country, and is implementing this style of teaching in their classroom right now. Stacy is married to a wonderful educator, Travis Brady. He's a first-year teacher, but he's been on staff for quite a few years and has 2 sons, Grayson, who is 7 and in the 2nd grade, and Garrett, who graduated from Union in 22 and is now is a firefighter. They're good. Currently fighting fires in Oregon and Northern California. We can't thank you enough for everything that you do. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Great job.
Really appreciate it. Since 2000.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's been just a bit.
Congratulations.
Dr. Bell, we're down to item A, which is
Yes.
superintendent's report.
Yes, sir. I have at least 5 things that we're going to update you on because it's important. A number of these things are of essence. A few things are to make sure accurate information is provided, and it's important that we have balanced information for not only our governing board, but for our public. But to first start off, we have on our teams, Renee Morales, our Director of Curriculum Instruction, and also one of our amazing parents who has stepped up to help support in a very positive way, Ms. Nicole Hampton. So they're going to share some things with you so that you are aware of what we're going to need to accomplish within our science course offerings. Ladies.
Good evening, President Carter, Dr. Battle, Dr. Strong, and board members. I may need to mute what comes out on my computer because it's resonating. I don't want you to hear that. Can you still hear me?
We're good. You're good on this end.
Yes.
I don't know if that'll work. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, great, super. Tonight I have with us Nicole Hampton, who is a representative from Northern Arizona University, and I am going to pull up the presentation. Let's hope that it pulls up.
You're up.
Did it pull up?
It was there.
It did for a second.
There it goes.
There you go.
Okay, great, super, thank you. What I'd like to speak with you about tonight is a little debacle that we ran into, and I am super grateful to Mrs. Hampton for bringing this to my attention, as well as Rosie Perez from Vista, and the amazing Stacy Brady, who we all just spoke about, for being collaborators with me in getting to the bottom of how we're going to move forward with this. What we're going to talk about tonight is ABOR science alignment and how it is working in our district. Currently, this is our sequence for science. We have an investigative science in options 1 and 2. We have an honors track in 3. I'm more concerned with what's going on in options 1 and 2, investigative science, biology, physical science. Then you can see that we take on a different selection that is offered for those that want to go further and take a 4th year of science. The problem that we are facing right now, as it was brought to our attention, is that in order to be aligned with ABOR's credentials and their requirements, and the requirements to get into a 4-year university, as well as requirements for any athlete that is going to participate in post-secondary sports in a college or university, is that 1 credit in each of 3 different laboratory sciences must be taken. And those sciences are chemistry, physics, earth science, or biology. 1 integrated science can take the place of those of that track. What we have learned is that investigative science is in fact an integrated science. Then we have biology, and then we have physical science, which is also an integrated science looking at chemistry, earth science, and biology. So what we have created, and I'll tell you how this happened, what we've created is state standards, 3 different lab sciences, but not ABOR standards, 3 sciences in 3 different laboratory areas. What I understand after some deep diving is that in 2018, when Arizona changed their state standards for science, it was an effort to closely align with those. What was not looked at was the area of science in which each of these classes fall. I'm going to go forward and then come back for questions. So correcting the concern. This is what we've been doing since we've come across this issue. The 19th of August, we held an emergency meeting to talk about the newly identified concern. Dr. Even, Stacy Brady, Rosie Perez, Kevin Hubbard, the academic APs, which are Lorena and Rebecca, and the counseling department leads also met. We talked about what was going on, we identified the problem, and we set out timelines so that we could move forward. And the 30th, I met with Mrs. Brady, Mrs. Perez, and Mr. Hubbard, and we set into action some very clear steps on how we were going to address this concern. The time lapse between the 19th and the 30th really was me investigating the problem, digging deep into how it originated, and trying to find ways that we could make change with the least amount of impact. On the 2nd, we laid out an established plan, and on the 8th, we plan to meet with the science department at large. Ms. Hampton has agreed to be at that meeting graciously. She has given me time and knowledge throughout this process. So she will be our university representative from NAU to answer questions for the science department. And then on the 12th, we are going to meet with the impacted science teachers for a Q&A and some support. It should be, we will also offer a parent forum that will be offered on the 13th. As far as how we've communicated this out, I have this real concern about making sure the appropriate folks are equally validated and equally informed. And so while I understand parents need to have this information as soon as possible, I want to respect the teachers in giving them the information first. And as soon as that Thursday meeting is over, I have asked the principals to send out an already drafted letter for our community members to go out through all of their communication platforms so that they will be informed in real time, but given it 10, 15 minutes after the science teachers are informed. Ongoing communication with the science department leads, administration, Dr. Even and Dr. Battle have taken place. And there again, we're having the parent communicate. At the same time that the communication will go out to the community members, I will be sending out an explanation to all staff members. So what are our next steps? In order to correct our flow, what we're looking at right now is moving every physical science class into a chemistry class post-fall break. And why this is a great way to deal with this issue is that physical science actually begins its year with a quarter of chemistry standards. So we're already in chemistry. And then I worked with our math, SME, our math subject content expert, on what is the math that these kids are going to need to know to be successful. And he feels that chemistry really is the best way to align with our math sequence at this time. So this will have the least amount of impact on the students. They will not change a schedule. They will not change a class. They will not change a teacher. They will leave in physical science and they will arrive in chemistry, and it'll be a schedule change. Who it will impact are the physical science teachers, which we've identified. Where it'll be a little more difficult for us is with our senior students. We heard tonight some amazing students, and they're talking about their next steps and where they want to go and where they want to be. This will fix that issue of entry qualifications for students, freshmen, sophomore, junior. But for our senior students, if they are bound to play sports in a junior college or in a university, they're going to need to take a fourth year of science. And so we have to rely on those letters to kind of primarily self-select. And then we're going to look at our CCAP, ECAP plans of where we have students that have identified as going to university, and we will have to give them grace and change them into a class that is chemistry or physics or earth science, geology, and they will be given grace in taking that class as though they are new to the school for that particular class. I'm going to go back for a minute and just recognize the fact that we will be working with administrators so that counselors starting next week are exclusively available to do these changes for our seniors so that they can get in those classes as soon as possible as far as the need and demand that they will be presenting. So senior impact, what does this mean? The current track is aligned with Arizona Department of Education graduation requirements. So if they are not going to go to a four-year university, if they are not going to go to play sports in a junior college, they are covered as far as Arizona Department of Education's graduation requirements. They can still enter the armed forces, go to a junior college, go to a trade school, do any of those things. The only eliminators are, and there again, they could get into a four-year university, they will have a deficiency. And universities only allow so many deficiencies. I'll let Ms. Hampton speak to that in a moment. We will have schedule changes, and they'll only need to take place for students who will be attending a four-year university, playing sports for a college. And that is because all athletes must be cleared through the NCAA clearinghouse. Moving forward, after we get this done, under control, and completed, we will be providing a pacing guide in curriculum math to all teachers that are moving from physical science to chemistry. We've already created it. We will also have guides with supports to what materials and resources they have to use, and we will provide department instructional leader support as well as subject matter expert support. Moving forward after that, we'll be creating a new viable track that is ABOR aligned for the 23-24 school year so that we take care of this going forward for our freshmen and sophomore students. I know that was a lot of information, so questions at this point?
Before anybody asks questions, I'd like to add a little bit of information that I think might be relevant here. I spoke again with Chris Mott, NAU's Director of Enrollment Management last week, just to kind of clarify what he had told me before and ask a couple of additional questions. NAU, as an institution, is kind of tasked by the Board of Regents to accept as many students as possible that graduate from Arizona high schools. And so our entry requirements are much more lenient than ASU and U of A. Starting with the fall of 23, all students who graduate from an Arizona high school and have a minimum GPA in their core classes will be guaranteed admission, regardless of any deficiencies that they have. They've also done away with the requirement for foreign language at NAU. It'll no longer be required for entry as of fall of 23. And even students who fall below that GPA threshold can have 2 deficiencies and still be admitted. So it's pretty lenient. I did ask the question because I was concerned, would the students still be eligible for our lumberjack scholarship? As you know, or maybe you don't know, but that's a scholarship that depending upon the level of your GPA, you can have all of your tuition paid for all 4 years, or the first 4 years at NAU. And then there's, depending upon lower GPAs, it's a lesser dollar amount. I was assured by Chris that they've taken this into consideration. And again, regardless of deficiencies, as long as they have that core GPA, they will still be awarded that lumberjack scholarship. But I did confirm with him that ASU and U of A are not as lenient. And in fact, I guess they're a little bit salty, you could say, that NAU has become so liberal about our entrance requirements. And so there's a little bit of, disagreement in what we have done. And so we cannot expect that students going from Casa Grande to ASU or U of A will be afforded those same types of opportunities. And as we heard earlier from one of the principals, he's thinking maybe his veterinary student might go to U of A. So we need to be very careful that we're not just looking at NAU and its more liberal requirements, but that we don't close any doors for any of our students and the opportunities they might want to pursue. So what I've always told my kids, just don't close the door. You never know what you might want to do later on. Make sure all those doors are still open to you. I'm really impressed with how fast the district reacted. I have to tell you, I emailed them on August 15th when I discovered this, and you saw their timeline. They immediately responded, took immediate action, and I was really, really impressed as a parent. I have 2 kids impacted that are in a physical science honors class right now, so I'm very pleased with their reaction, and you really should say kudos to the curriculum director and the principals and Dr. Battle for getting on this so quickly.
Thank you, Ms. Hampton, and I just want to echo her statement that Dr. Battle and I speak of so often. While it is not our choice as to whether or not our students attend whatever post-secondary opportunity they may be afforded, it is our duty to provide them with the basic minimum standards so that they may make choices in their benefit in the future.
Yes, thank you very much. And we surely appreciate it, especially the rapid action of trying to fix a problem and trying to find an answer to something, and that would be in the best interest of the students, of getting, especially the seniors, et cetera, that are impacted right now, of getting them available to graduate if they choose to go to a 4-year school, in-state, out-of-state, that requires that amount of science.
Yes, sir. So I too want to thank everyone. It really is evident that we're here for students, and we must make those decisions. Once we've learned about them, we must respond. And I'm fortunate to have the kind of team to work with that are willing to do those kinds of things. It would be our pleasure to answer any questions that you may have in regard to the presentation. The timeline is before you. That communication will occur. There will be some confusion, if you will. I want to commend and thank in advance our guidance departments who are going to be helping us with this. But I can tell you the turnaround is because we have a talented team who are willing to do what's best and right for our students. Questions?
I guess one of the things you mentioned the other day is the counselors will be, and guidance will definitely be involved in this because the amount of kids, potentially the amount of kids that this could affect that need to be come in and have schedules moved, et cetera.
Yes, and again, Ms. Hampton is a wonderful solution maker parent. She contacts us when there are things we need to know and helps us in this regard. This is an example. So yes, sir, we will be able to train our counselors and continue to look at our transcripts very distinctly and specifically. And Ms. Hampton has also agreed to be a part of that process.
Any other questions? Anyone?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Kelly.
So you guys had mentioned in the presentation that it will affect the physical science teachers. Does that mean that they're still going to be the teachers? They're just shifting to more chemistry-based lesson? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, that is exactly what you're understanding. And so where it's different in science than it is in math is that when I am a math teacher for secondary math, I can get a certification in math and then in secondary math, and then I can teach anything in math. I can teach AP stats, I can teach algebra, I can teach anything. That's not how it works for science. In the science realm, I am certified in science, and if I'm going to teach biology or a biology course, which there are several, then I have to have a biology emphasis and or endorsement and cert. So we have pulled all the certifications from the physical science teachers, and we have identified the fact that this is an area where we're just going to have to send letters out to parents that says we have a highly qualified science teacher in your classroom, but they may not, and this will only go for those that it applies to, may not be certified in chemistry. But they will go from teaching physical science to teaching strictly chemistry. And what I want to reemphasize is that right now, our students in physical science have had a chemistry quarter. It's not, I mean, it's condensed, but it is chemistry standards. So we're not shifting their world a whole lot. It's going to impact adults more than it impacts children, which is, in my opinion, the right thing to do.
Yeah, you bet. Go ahead. We don't normally take questions like this from the audience, but this is related to a parent. Go ahead.
Okay, so for those who are in like honors physical science, since it's being switched to a chemistry class, are those students still receiving that weight for an honors class, or are they losing that opportunity that they first got when they joined that honors class?
No. Can you hear the question?
Is it?
So the question.
I can, and I'm gonna rely a little bit on Nicole. Here's what I understand. Honors classes are not, and I may be misspeaking. Honors classes are not as weighted as AP classes. And what we have to look at is that if it was an AP class, which we can look at shifting it from honors to AP, then it would stand alone as an
Ms.
advanced
Morales,
class.
I understand the question the parent is asking, and they're both weighted the same. I'm assuming, because I have two children in that class, when you're talking about, I'm assuming that they'll keep it honors,
Yes.
but they'll just switch it to chemistry honors.
Yes.
But an important thing to actually bring up here, this is actually pretty relevant, I don't think a lot of people understand, when schools are looking at entrance requirements for scholarships, or in this case, the core GPA, it's an unweighted GPA. Regardless of whether it was AP or honors, and regardless of how we do it, a student has two GPAs, a weighted GPA and an unweighted GPA. And it's that unweighted one that goes towards entrance requirements for core classes and towards scholarships usually. It is that way at the 3 state universities.
Thank you. I knew that I was not quite sure about that honors versus AP. But we will be looking further into whether or not that would stand alone as an advanced class before we switch it.
Yes, so we would not want to impact a student's GPA by this change, and that's where the individual students with the counselor would work towards that goal.
I have a question. So if you have a senior graduating in December who was completed their assignment, and they're planning to attend a four-year university, does that mean that they now have to take chemistry after their predetermined graduation date in December now?
Very good question. I think it'd be important for your students, if I might, Ms.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, to contact his or her counselor so that we can see where your student is going and review the transcripts as to what would be needed. So I hate to answer so vaguely, but without the complete detail, we would need to see that. And my hope is the answer is no, but there is a possibility that we need to pick up that science class possibly at a local college or actually be enrolled in the school. Thank you for
I
the
guess the
question.
thing right now is you guys have got, a little bit of heads up on
Yes,
this, so you, I guess, be the first one in the queue
yes.
would be my recommendation and get it out there so that, because it looks like everything's moving quickly. What we need is the letter that's gonna go out to your parents.
Yes.
And counselors are being done, so I would highly recommend that, and I would recommend that everybody please get in touch with, as immediately as possible, talk to your counselor.
Yes.
Okay, one last question.
It's more of like a response. I understand was concerned about the mix between chemistry and physical science. I had several discussions with my former chemistry / physical science teacher last year about it, how they work. So, under my impression, I was going to do honors chemistry my sophomore year, and I did do honors chemistry, and then my plan was going to physics 1 my junior year, because there's 2 AP classes, physics 1 and physics 2. Instead, through the state curriculum, all of us who wanted to take AP physics 1 were forced into physical science our junior year. And what I have discovered in physical science is the curriculum in the first semester is the exact same thing as chemistry. The exact same thing. So to argue that if a student who's graduating shouldn't get that kind of credit, I think they absolutely should. Because in that first semester, there's nothing short of just pure chemistry. And then later when we get into the semester, it's like more physics based, but chemistry and physics are relatively the same way. So that should hopefully answer some confusion about the two classes.
Thank you very much.
Thank
I'd say
you. Thank you.
nothing better than having somebody on the ground there, so. We appreciate that, and, I think the thing we recommend is obviously since we found this, and, Dr. Hampton, we really appreciate you bringing it to the attention of the district for moving quickly to get this addressed, and obviously the seniors are a priority to get this addressed, especially if you got a senior that's graduating sooner than later, that they should be at the front of the queue and trying to get this thing figured out, so. Thank you, and I think, next on your superintendent's report. Thank
Yes.
you very much.
Thank you very, very much. We have a few.
Thank you.
We have a few things that, again, I just want to make sure we have information that's out there and also transparent. There were some concerns and still exist, and we're working towards transportation issues that have been brought to our attention and also that we are aware of. So Gina and or Dr. Strong will be speaking to what we're doing regarding transportation concerns. Ms. Salazar.
Good evening, President Hennis, good evening, board members. I would first like to start off by saying that we have been made aware of the issues with transportation, and we would like to thank the families for bringing the concerns to our attention. And as for their patience, as Casper Union High School District and Durham work together to solidify a solution, more specifically with Route 2, which is it covers the area between Cottonwood and Trekkel, so behind Safeway, Quail Gardens Apartments, as well as west of Canal on Portson and Burris, so on the SP Ranch neighborhood. Some of the solutions Durham is working on starting this week to try to help with this. They are going to start one route a little bit earlier and drop the students off at Casa Grande Union High School. And then they're going to send that bus out to pick up one of the routes on Route 2. So they're going to kind of split that up. And they did a trial run last week and they were able to get the students to school on time. So hopefully that continues to work out. They are also going to send an extra bus out when permitted. Their dispatch person will take a bus out as well I say when permitted because if they have other drivers call out, then she has to cover their routes, so. But we also have 3 applicants that are in the final stages of their training, and it's a extenuous process. It's, 4 to 6 weeks, I believe, and it's required by Department of Public Safety. And so once those applicants are on board, then we'll have 3 extra drivers there. And we cordially ask that our community help us spread the message that Durham has raised their starting price from $17 to $21 an hour. So if you could please, if you know anybody that is looking for a job or anybody in the audience, we ask them to apply to Durham. And this is not an issue that only we are experiencing. All districts statewide are dealing with this issue as well as, regular organizations. So it's just labor shorts, workforce that we're dealing with right now. So.
And so, I guess the question is Route 2 was the biggest,
Correct.
one of the historic, or the past week had been habitually the most tardy.
Correct.
And we have come up with a plan to.
Yes, and that is the route that they are working on and adding extra drivers. And they did a trial run last week and they were able to get the students to school on time.
And did you reach out to the one mother who had spoken to all of the board members?
Yeah, so did
I have
have all the
specific
students that were targeted, have they been taken care of? I mean, have those records been corrected? She wasn't the only one that the kid was late. Have they been resolved?
It's Mr. Knapp, when he comes up next, he's going to address that question for you, Mr. Ray.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Salazar. I appreciate your time. Okay. Then we also have, based on feedback and also what we've observed, 3 of our leaders, Mr. Danzy, Mr. Knapp, and Mr. Riffus, are going to speak to customer service in our district and some strategies that we are implementing, and they'll let you know why each, of course, the 2 principals. And then Mr. Riffus is our Director of IT and Data Analyst, and he'll share some great points with you this evening.
Really quick, just Jack, Dr. Battle, I apologize. I have a babysitter that will need to leave in a couple of minutes, so I will be discreet as possible.
Exiting stage number, right? Is that what it says?
Didn't want to cause alarm.
We're gonna make sure it stays waiting for.
Right, exactly.
Okay. That's the important part. President Hennis, members of the board, Dr. Battle. Based on some feedback we've received lately, there's some areas we can improve in with the customer service, phone systems, and things like that. So Dr. Battle asked us to put together a plan on how we're going to attack this. We've got to do a better job, obviously. So that's exactly what we're going to do. These are most of the feedback that we've received that we're trying to address today. There's also other things aside from just phone etiquette, phone trees and things like that we've made some adjustments to. So I believe we've come up with something that's going to make a big difference. These are the changes we've already made. These are the things, just the technical pieces that we can put into place right away. And I think it's going to make a difference. I know I've received some feedback on it being helpful. Being able to dial extensions, that piece had gone away for a while. And people are so accustomed to dialing an extension, you hear phone ring, it picks up, they can start dialing the extension. Well, if you dial a 3, I believe it's at your place, it goes over to the counseling department instead of starting for the extension. So we added that piece back in, and people can dial the extension, and there's an announcement at the beginning of the message saying, if you'd like to dial your extension, please do so now. The receptionist can be dialed at any time just by pressing 0. Some people don't want to wait for the whole phone tree, and the message about the receptionist is down at the end. So everybody will be able to press 0 at any time. Just go straight to the receptionist. I don't want to hear a phone tree. I just want to talk to a human being. The ability to dial the administrator's extensions had been taken out. We thought it was a good thing to do because instead of going straight to the administrator, it would go to the administrative assistant. So it sounded like a good thing at the time. There's other issues that brings into play though. If you want to call Mr. Mab or Mr. Danzy after hours,
and it's dialing straight to the administrative assistant, there's no way to get a hold of them. So now they have the ability, it's actually going to ring both locations, administrative assistant, the principals are out and about, and also the principal themselves, just so they get to the phone as fast as they can when they're available. And one of the change we haven't made yet, but we're preparing to, is every voicemail in the district is going to go to that user's email. That way, and I know I love this, I've had this for a long time. It goes straight to my voicemail. Or, I'm sorry, my voicemail goes straight to my email, and I can pick it up anywhere I want. It goes to my phone. I can sit and listen to it on the way home safely using my electronics on my hands. And then the last thing, I want to thank the group for working on this, is working on my customer service, just phone etiquette, things like that. Covering soft skills, body language. There's a lot of things that we can do. And so we're looking into what's available out there as professional development. And I'm probably going to participate in this part myself. Dr. Battle is one that points this out constantly. I have this look on my face like this usually. And I'm not angry, I'm thinking about stuff. And I don't recognize that I'm doing it. So I can do better on those things. And I plan to. In body language, you know, not a good stance. And there's a lot of things people don't even realize they're doing, and I do this one too. That I think just some PD would help it, and you know, just recognizing what you're doing make a big difference. And here I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Danzy.
Well, thank you, Dave, Mr. Griffiths. He covered a lot of stuff in my slides, so. The receptionist position will be backed up by 2 alternate members of our staff, both attendance clerks. So she's busy. It automatically rings to their phone after the 3rd ring. If she's in use on her call, it automatically goes to them instead of her having to wait, or our customers having to wait to get somebody. Early pickup. So when we ask our parents to call in to have our students ready to be early to get picked up before the end of the day. So that will also go to the attendance department so that those calls are being answered on a regular basis and not going to voicemail. Some of the things that we were talking about moving forward, as one of my assistant principals always says, know better, do better. So the more we know, the better we're able to correct the mistakes that we're having. So if a call is made to the receptionist, it will be answered by the 3rd ring. Calls to administrators will go to both myself or all administrators, and they're also admin assistants. So that those calls will be answered by a person also. As Dave said, voicemails will also be going to voicemail as well as emails. And as he said, I'm more of an email person. I get back to my emails a lot quicker than voicemails because it seems like it takes a long time, but to check a voicemail, but email will be a lot shorter. And we all have committed to answering all calls, voice messages, everything within 24 hours. Attendance lines, we have 2 attendance clerks, if you will. Their schedules will be staggered. So we are checking attendance on a more regular basis, hourly. Their lines, the attendance lines will ring at 2 different locations also. And we are committed to updating the attendance by 3:30 on a regular and consistent basis.
That's important. Why? Because
the auto dialer goes out.
The auto dialer goes out for all of those pieces of information need to be recorded prior to that, because one of the things that I know some parents were upset with, they would call in, excuse their student, and then still get their phone call at the end of the day. So it'll take care of that part.
The automated selections, we spent probably about 1.5 to 2 hours narrowing down the selections that community members can make so they can get through the auto dialer quicker, and also have less wait time when they're trying to figure out who they have to go. We also added the last a selection for the bookstore. A lot of parents call in to get to the bookstore, and there was a long wait to get there, or wasn't there, and they would be calling around. So we made sure that we were able to get them directly to the bookstore. Any questions on those before I move over?
That's great.
So part of dealing with our attendance procedures is having our staff start time staggered to accommodate those early attendance call-ins. That the attendance phone lines will be checked and recorded in PowerSchool before the automated attendance phone dialer runs. which is what Mr. Danzy was talking about before, so that all attendance from parents are entered in by 3:30, so that we can beat that auto dialer that goes out to notify parents of an absence. Passes for early release will be organized by end of the day so that we can have student pickups on time. First thing in the AM, passes are organized by period for anything that we missed overnight. All voicemails, again, our goal for attendance is within an hour. So that's something that we're working on and committed to continue to improve. To Mr. Wright's point, one of the things moving forward is dealing with any of our late buses. So while we're working with our transportation company to minimize those late buses, we've streamlined the process for students when they do arrive late. And those students will now go directly to class, and staff will be notified via email of those late buses and the stamp on their hand for time. And then they will have their attendance immediately corrected. We're working right now on Union at going back and taking a look at late buses so we can correct those attendance entries so they're not penalized.
Great.
Part of our goal is to continue to work on our communication plans. I haven't been in an organization yet that communication is streamlined and perfect. I think there's always room to grow. So some of the things that we are committed to continue to do and improve are our weekly newsletters, emails, and mass messages, as well as improving our presence on social media. Communication with staff is also their weekly newsletter, staff emails, and we present information during our staff meetings that take place the first and third Tuesday of each month. I should add too that we also hold regular department meetings with our department instructional leaders on the alternating weeks, and they help to communicate those areas out. By design, teacher extensions during the school day do not ring to them unless it's an internal phone call, and that's to minimize disruptions to the classroom. So we just want to make sure that while we intend to communicate, by design, they will receive their voicemail now through email so that they can respond either at their prep time or after hours. And so that's to minimize those disruptions. This time, if you have any questions.
That's great, and I think that addresses a lot of, there's some different parents concerned, and specifically, I mean, it's very important for us, the initial person they run into, or the initial phone call that they take, et cetera, that there's somebody that's receptive there. That's great that you see the phones are cleared up, and hopefully that will just, I know that the site council, you had some folks that were interested in talking about that.
Absolutely, and I just want to first of all say thank you to the parents and community members who have brought these thoughts to us, because until we know better, we can't do better. I of course appreciate respectfully, but we want to make sure that we communicate well and that we're treating our customers with respect, and we're not sending a poor message, because your children are there and we want you to know we do care about them. I want to commend the leadership here. I would ask for grace and patience, as it's a change of behavior in some instances, where our staff is going to continue to be trained and get better, but your feedback is absolutely appreciated. So thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, governing board, and we look forward to improvement.
Thank you much, appreciate it.
All right, and then next I have Mr. Sean Casey. He's going to provide some accurate attrition update information, as there has been some data shared that we want to make sure that you do have accurate information that's coming from Visions regarding our retirees and resignations this past school year and the year before that.
Is it up there? No, just. Perfect. Good evening, President, board members, Dr. Battle, Dr. Strong. Anyway, so I'm here tonight. This is going to be probably the shortest presentation that you will ever have at a board meeting. 3 slides, but it's probably one of the most important, and here's why. Over the past several weeks, including last, I believe it was the last board meeting, we've had discussions on resignations, retirements, terminations, items like that. There has been a number thrown out there of 100 teachers, 100 employees. The following week, I've heard 130 employees that have either resigned or retired. So my next 2 slides are for factual pieces. All right, so from July 2020 to June 2021, our resignations of teachers, so certified teachers, 21. Counselor, 1. Now, they are considered certified because that's where we have the met counselors. So counselors and teachers both certified. So a total of 22 folks. Retirements, teachers, certified teachers, 7 of them retired for that year between 20 and 21. Now, if you move on to this school year right now, 21 and 22, or not school year, last year, moving to this school year. Resignations, again, teachers were 25, counselors were 4. So a total of 29 people. Retirements, teachers 7, principal 1, which you all know the principal, fine young lady, decided to move on and had a great run. So the idea of this is to show that there were not 100, there were not 130. It was clearly defined that if you look at the teacher resignations for 21 to 22, a number of people, and I did not get into details on this because I believe that's more of a private matter, but a number of them were just not resignations because they hated Casa Grande Union High School District and they wanted to move on. A number of those 25, they were health reasons. They were moving out of state. They were J1 visa teachers that had to return back to their nation because of the 5-year rule and them coming over here. So I wanted to clarify that because certified was known as because people walked because of what was happening, that is not the case, okay? Oh, what happened there? Ooh, that's not good. No? C-Day, all right, so classified. Our higher number of resignations, July 20 to June 21, resignations were 24, retirements were 8. Classified for July 2021 to June 2022, resignations were 44 and retirements were 6. Resignations, classified, you are gonna have more resignations throughout the school year because of the positions that they're in. And it was mostly within our classified paraprofessionals, security, and our maintenance facilities. So grounds and custodial. That was the main portion of those resignations you see of 44. So if you take the total number and you look at the piece from A to B, yeah, there's a high number, but that is not an unnormal aspect of looking at numbers wise. And especially for classified. Classified, you're gonna have those numbers run high because people come and go. Number one, main thing, because of salary. However, with security and our paraprofessionals and IECs now, where we've upped some salary, I don't think you're gonna see as many classified not return or take a walk during the school year. Along with custodial and grounds. We've upped theirs, obviously, because you guys approved the agenda of that item and when they proceeded to up the salary of those. So that's all I'm here for today, just to make sure that everybody has the facts and that everyone knows that where we're heading is, I believe, is in a good direction and everything that we need to know with this district to make it continue to grow. So that's it. Any questions?
Any questions? Any questions? Shall I just go back to certified one more time? Obviously, we've done quite a bit on classified, specifically on security and grounds, et cetera, because we were not, when you have Wilson moving to your back door, and when every other McDonald's and everything else is $15, $16, $14 is kind of the bottom floor, everybody's had an increase in maintaining any kind of staff, or to even get people. But I just want to go back on certified one more time, Sean, and clarify. Of the teachers that resigned in 2021, 2022, a portion of those are J1?
Portion are J1 and a portion, like I said, not a lot. It's not a huge number, but over the course of those 2 years, we had a high number of J1s return back due to the rules and regulations of J1 visas.
15.
And Dr. Bell, maybe you'd speak to just a little bit on one of your thoughts that you're trying to implement potentially for J1 students.
Yes.
For J1 people coming in this coming year, so you don't have a lag.
It'd be my pleasure. And so we have amazing teachers that we receive and work with from the Philippines. And in 1 year, last year, 15 of them, unfortunately, had to go back at the same time. The year before that, they weren't able to return because of COVID. So of course, we hired them and we kept them. But what that did was impact the number that were leaving at one time, which in fact became our science teachers, as Ms. Brady's been shaking her head. So it created a wonderful opportunity, but also there was some back issues to that. Our plan moving forward, and we've talked about this already with Dr. Strong and his wisdom, knowing what our vision is, knowing what challenges we've had, and also the rest of our human resources staff, is we're looking to hire our J1 teachers or vacancies sooner. So whether it's J1 or not, we want to hire them sooner as a next semester so that we'll continue them throughout. So we hope to alleviate some of that congestion of classes, hire teachers before other districts get in the hiring season, keep those teachers, train the teachers, and then be able to carry them over for the following school year. So that's our plan. And we believe that we can do that, especially if we address the salary rates of our new staff and teachers.
That's great. Thank you very much. Any other questions for Sean? Appreciate the clarification and bringing that to us. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Case. And then lastly, just an update about where we are with our JROTC instructor hiring process. So a number of things have happened. We have a JROTC instructor that's waiting on his final approval. I've actually decided not to continue to debug it. He said I'd be the first one to contact when he says that he is approved, and that instructor would go to Union. So therefore, we'd be fully staffed with 2 JROTC instructors at Union. And then we have another JROTC instructor who actually lives here. And he is very enthusiastic, has already started the application process. We are going to have lunch with him, the principal, and a few of the leadership cadets on Friday at Vista. Thank you, Mary, for scheduling that. And he'll get to meet at least part of the leadership team during the lunchtime that they have reserved. And I'm absolutely excited. I think that everyone will appreciate him and his love for students and his background. So he will just need to complete his application. He recognizes that at the end of each month, they would need to, the board, the Marine Board, would need to approve all things. And so far, he's spoken to the lieutenant colonel that does the placement, and he is qualified to teach. So we are very, very optimistic. I think it's also important to note that since the last board meeting, I have made attempts to reach out to the student cadets and offered a lunch meeting at Union, where the majority of the students spoke, and also invited some of the Vista students to attend. Unfortunately, the Union students did not attend. However, I did appreciate the opportunity, whereas Mr. Mann, Mr. Danzy, Mr. Welter, Ms. Corson, Ms. Miller, and I all met and listened and learned from some of the Vista students who spoke very eloquently. And it was just a very positive experience. And I think that we are moving in a good direction. So what else happens? Well, we'll continue to look. I've spoken to another gentleman who helped us locate a gentleman that we hope will be at Vista. And there may be another possible candidate. So we hope to be fully staffed. So we are relentless in our efforts, and we won't stop until we continue to find qualified individuals to be our JROTC instructors in Casa Grande Union High School.
Well, let's hear from the.
That is great to
I'm
hear.
sorry, but I've had enough. You know what, you can blow smoke up everybody, but these kids have a right to speak. You know, it's hearsay.
Ma'am, I believe what's coming up right next is call to the public, and that's when the kids will have a chance to
I
speak.
think they have
So,
the right.
and if you'll look on the agenda, number 5 is call to the public. So we'll be on to that right next.
It's about the kids, not about what you're gonna do.
That's great, thank you. We appreciate that.
I'm sure you do.
We appreciate that. You had one other clarification that you need, and we were about the difference between ACE and ANOVA.
Yes, very good.
Just because there was some confusion among people. This will just take one more minute, and then we'll be ready to go to call to the public, all right? Thank you.
So after COVID occurred, Casa Grande Union High School District instituted CGOA, was Casa Grande Online Education. And upon doing so, we've learned that asynchronous learning, at least for some of our students, may not have been as successful as we would hope, as a number of students struggle in that environment. So after taking a look at our research and our data and talking with some parents, it was important that we listen to our parents to see what we would do. So we established INNOVA. INNOVA is Innovative Occupations Virtual Academy. So our students are following the schedule, which is virtual. And I have to commend again, many wonderful teachers at Vista as well as Union who are teaching them through hybrid method or virtually. So that's INNOVA. Now PACE, which we received a grant, excuse me, $250,000, check me when I'm wrong. Thank you very much, Tina. This year's a planning year. What PACE is, Pathways Accelerating Career Experiences. That will be an in-person learning experience next year, fall of 2024. We have partnered with, and there was presentations with Lucid, with Kohler, with ASU, CAC. Actually, Dr. Leckie is now participating as a part of that partnership team. Our district, Frito-Lay, I may be missing a partner, out in the city. The mayor is also as a part of it. So that workforce committee and partnership will continue to plan. We meet standing every 3 weeks. There's subcommittees in curriculum, logistics, and IT that are planning for and innovative opportunities to continue in a 360 view from pre-K to 20 beyond to ensure our kiddos are not only learning, but they need to K-12. They're getting dual credit, bilingual learning, and being able to go to college, career, and life in preparation. So 2 separate programs. And of course, we'll still have our other viable traditional public schools that will continue to champion learning for all kiddos. So that's a little snapshot. Any questions about that?
No, I just appreciate the clarification, because there's a little bit of confusion about what each of these on, what they did or what they didn't do. At this point, thank you. Do you have anything else for that?
No, sir.
We are down to item 5, which is call to the public, and we have 8 cards here this evening. And Kelly, if you would read the public call to the content, please.
Sure. Request to speak to the governing board pursuant to ARS 38-431.02.H. The board may make an open call to the public during a public meeting, subject to reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions, to allow individuals to address the public body on any issue within the jurisdiction of the public body. At the conclusion of an open call to the public, individual board members may respond to criticism made by those who have addressed the board, may ask staff to review a matter, or may ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. However, members of the board shall not discuss or take legal action on matters raised during an open call to the public unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion and legal action. During an open call, the board requests that speakers refrain from voicing complaints against school personnel or any person connected with the district, as it may impact due process rights. Policies KE, KEB, and KED are provided by the board for disposition of legitimate complaints, including those involving individuals.
Thank you. So I guess you were asking if we had a couple of students, should we let them go ahead and go first before we start going through, or just take them? And I'm not sure just exactly who the students were. We have a Savannah. Is she a student? And there's I believe a Justin Scott.
Students that want to talk, will you let them know your name so they can pull the card? We're having a conversation.
Savannah Halbert.
Okay, Savannah, would you like to come forward? And then right after that would be Justin Scott. And you guys are students, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. I thought since she mentioned it, I thought we'd get students up here first if that's possible. So Savannah, what we normally do is, and we appreciate you being here this evening, we give 3 minutes to each person so they can talk. So you're more than, thank you for coming this evening. I appreciate you having this time.
You're welcome.
Good evening once again. This evening, I would like to outline the issues that I have observed within Casa Grande Union High School's school and the district. These issues have not only affected our JROTC programs at both schools, but all the students at both campuses, and have hindered learning and continue to show that the school and its new administration have failed to inspire excellence, but rather inspire expectations, hence the new grading system for students to graduate. First and foremost, the teacher shortage. Leading to massive counts of students in classes,
There's even a teacher on Union's ground who has 70 young adults in their class. I understand this is nationwide, but the administration should be trying to retain teachers and hire new ones, not drive them away by harassing them and cutting their salaries. When other districts around Arizona is increasing their teacher salaries, this district is cutting teachers' pays. Next, school security. Within the past year, there have been many threats and fights at the Union campus. Again, this is just the past year of 2022. Students and teachers should feel safe and secure while in school, not scared for their lives, getting into fights, or breaking up fights. Our security needs to be trained to prioritize the safety of the students and prevent on-campus disputes instead of being incredibly strict on students forgetting their IDs or being slightly out of dress code. They should be sending students to discipline for being disrespectful and disobedient. The students should be punished accordingly on the spot. We have seen the students get away with bigger incidents. I feel the reason some students are doing what they are doing is because there is no harsh punishments. The school wants to keep them in school so they get their money. The school wants the teachers to do everything, call the parents, write referrals, deal with the students instead of calling security to take them away so they continue teaching us, so we don't get further behind. Finally, concerns of the students. We are young adults, not kiddos. Please stop referring to us as kiddos. We are not in elementary school anymore. We are told to suggest things and use our voice. However, when we do use our voice to suggest a change for the betterment of the school, we are blatantly ignored, told things would change, but actions are never taken. And stop lying to us. People said things were going to change, but nothing has changed. More security has been hired, but again, students are not receiving consequences. We need to show the students and the parents that the school and district is not playing around. However, I would not like to leave on a bad note, so I would like to offer my assistance to the student, to the board, and to the principal of Union. Allow me to assist you. I wish to see change for the better at the school. I wish to see the school become great like I have heard from alumni, to see a campus that inspires excellence and presence and continue to help scholars and young adults in their future. Thank you once again for your time.
Thank you. Next is Justin Scotts. Did I pronounce that correctly? Yes. Just come on up if you would, please.
Good evening, everybody. Justin Stotts. I spoke at the last meeting. I was here at the last board meeting. So it's a little bit of what Halbert said, but it's more of an overall with focused on the teachers because I struggle in classes a lot and I work better with like more of a C, not just a computer screen. And at the beginning of last semester for last year, freshman year, it was more whiteboard and write it all down and work. And you get help if you need help with the teacher and they'll give you a one-on-one. But now it's more based on computer. You don't work with the teacher, you work from the screen. They give you an assignment, you work on the notes, and you do the assignment. And I still really we have a math teacher, but it's not a math teacher. We just got her, and can't even get into the Savannah Realize, she can't even have any access to anything so we can change our grade from the previous. We had a sub all year for our honors geometry. We can't change it, can't change the grade that we can't redo tests. That goes against things that other people have. If you need to retake a test, you should be allowed to retake a test. But she can't change that because she can't get into Savannah's because our teacher, our substitute that was there up and left one day. We don't know what happened to her, it's not my business. But the fact that she is not able to help us in that way and
do a one-on-one with somebody who needs the help is just appalling. And in my science class, yeah, I know that you guys are understaffed in science, and I know that's not how you guys want to be at this moment. But in my science class, we have to have 2 classrooms. And we have one teacher, and then we have this one lady who comes in and supervises. But we have our one teacher who just got there. Just like maybe a week ago, she just got there. But the fact that we have to have 2 classrooms means that she has to split up the lecturing. So if she ever does a PowerPoint presentation, she has to show it to one class one day, and then the next day she shows it to the other class while they do the assignment. And it's pretty efficient, but I find that it's easier when we work as a group, and if we're all split up and there's only a few kids in one classroom and an entire horde in the other one, what happens to the kids in the classroom when there's nobody? When you can't ask the team. When you can't ask a fellow student to help you out. There's not really much I could say that hasn't been covered multiple times. So I just ask that you guys hear me and maybe do something.
We're listening. Thank you. Appreciate your time. We have another card with, I want to say Lacey Morse.
That's me.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And Lacey, 3 minutes to over.
That's fine.
Everybody.
My name is Lacey Morse. I'm a parent of a freshman at Casa Grande Union High School. Next year, I will have 3 students at your high schools. I have concerns because of the fight that happened on campus. Last board meeting that was discussed that there are 4,300 school students in our high school district. 4,300 students with 9 campus monitors at each site can get overwhelming. I believe that the fight was part of that overwhelming. They didn't have enough support staff to alleviate that fight. My son was at that lunch and is scared to go to school. And it concerns me that he wants to go online versus being in person. I have kids that will have IEPs next year, and it scares me that there's not enough teachers. My students struggle to do computer work. They struggle to go from one program to another, and the school is not addressing that because of the staff shortages. I am worried that my students will not excel because of the fact that there is not support for them. And I understand the shortages and I understand all of that because it's nationwide. It's not just school districts, it's everybody. However, when I see the numbers that are being shown about district budgets and I see that, fine arts is being excelled, which is awesome. But I also see that the security is being decreased. And I have concerns about that because if you have 4,300 students and 18 monitors or school security people, that's obviously not enough. And same with teachers. You have overwhelming classroom numbers. And how does my child get that attention that they're asking for that one-on-one or for that, even that help? My son wanted to change his class and has yet to see his school counselor. He was told he had to make an appointment, made an appointment, and she canceled it. So as a parent, it really, really worries me that I can't get a hold of teachers. I can't get a hold of school staff. We got that mass email that said that there was an incident on campus, but it didn't explain what it was. It didn't really explain anything. It just said that they were on lockdown. And then a couple hours later, it was removed, which is fine. But if it was a medical emergency, then it should have stated that a student had a medical emergency. I feel that the school district needs to better communicate with parents. I know there is a lot of communication, but I feel that there needs to be more. I have no problem attending events. Mr. Mab was kind enough to hold the meeting for parents to attend about the new grading rubric. However, the notice was very short. In fact, I received it while I was currently at work and couldn't attend because I was at work. I would have liked to have made accommodations to attend that in person or even virtually, and that was not available to me. So I think that should really be something that is addressed.
That's great, great. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I hope Mr. Manager will. We have Kelly Silva.
Governing board, Dr. Battle, community, students, teachers, I want to thank you for allowing me to speak today. A lot of you know who I am, a lot of you may not. I am a parent, first and foremost, of a student in this district. I'm also a veteran of this community. JROTC is a huge program. However, with the actions of some at this district, we have lost 3 of our instructors. Yes, you might have 3 more coming on. However, as of today, no applications have been fully turned in or completed. Marine Corps headquarters is shutting down 2 programs in the Western region due to budgetary issues. Casa Grande, because of the fact that we do not have 4 instructors for next year, is on that chopping block. Didn't know if you were aware of that. If we lose this program, it is a permanent loss to our city. We will never get another one back. It used to be 5-year waiting time. However, all JROTC programs have completely shut down, starting any new programs. That is a loss of this district of at least $350,000 that it costs to start this program. That is what this district put in to start this program. The JROTC program at Vista was considered an honor roll program because all of their students made honor roll. That program was not going to be cut, but now it's on the chopping block. And it very well could be, even if we got the instructors to cover next year. This district took this program and destroyed it in less than a year. Your grading criteria, yes, it's based on a scientific study. But what the scientific study doesn't do is follow these students outside of high school, into college and into the real world. In college, you don't turn in an assignment, you're going to get a 0. That's it. There's no making up that assignment. There's no making up a test that you failed, nothing. You failed, too bad. You work on making your grades. You guys are setting these students up to fail in real life. Yes, your graduation rates will be better. Now, I have started a petition, and I started it last month on August 13th.
We got about 15 seconds.
August 13th, as of tonight, I have 989 signatures to have Dr. Battle removed from her position. Now, this was all done online.
That's great. We appreciate that. You've had your 3 minutes. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course, they're gonna come out.
We have the next one. Next up, we have Kimberly Claridge.
I had a different statement prepared, but
You can wing it.
yeah. So thank you all for having me speak tonight. I spoke the last board meeting, raised a number of concerns, including the telephone issue and others. And I want to thank Dr. Battle for taking the time to meet with me today. I hope that other parents will take the opportunity to meet with Dr. Battle and also go through the action plans and the updates that you're making. I want to thank you all. I know that the school board is an unpaid position, and you're here and doing this as a service to our community, so thank you. And I want to say there's a lot of swirl and churn that is being put up in our community, and I would like to ask that instead of swirl and turn online, that we as parents and leaders in our community get behind our students and support our school district and ensure that they have the tools and resources they need to be successful. And by doing that, we will be successful as a community. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And we have, up next is Steve Hayes. You're talking item numbers 4 and 6. Steve, come on up, please.
Good morning. There's a lot of things that I could say. I think I'm just gonna ask questions. We heard a lot of numbers regarding staff turnover. Did those numbers also include people who just simply chose not to sign their contracts in return? If that's the case, then also why is it at the end of last school year that Mr. Matt presented some 40 to 50 plaques, teachers from union alone who would not be returning for this current school year? I stand here as a potential future parent also. I also want to ask, how bad are things going to have to get in order for you to take action? Whether it's issues with junior ROTC, whether it's staffing issues, whether it's any number of different issues, they all seem to have a common root. When are you going to act? How many students need to come here and cry out to you for help because of the state of this district and their schools before you're going to act? We just heard from another parent regarding the state of the junior ROTC program as far as the core is concerned. And I didn't intend on coming here to embarrass him, but the thought of Gunnery Sergeant Flores no longer being a union because of that is difficult for me as a future parent, and not just a future parent, but a parent of a child with an IEP. It would seem to me that that school would be a lesser place. It may be that much less safer without his presence. As a father, I would love nothing more for my son to have that opportunity to be mentored by a man like him. But again, why are we even here and having these conversations and having to ask these questions? It's because you have failed up to this point to do what is necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. We have RJ Green.
That would be Geen.
Geen, I apologize. Geen. I got 64-year-old eyes.
All right, quite a lot to go over, because quite a lot came up tonight. Back in January, I came to the school to enroll my daughter for the next year, okay? And when I was reading at the school, I was told I need an ID to enroll my daughter. I said, no, I don't need an ID. That's illegal. Do you know why it's illegal? Because we have undocumented immigrants here with children that don't have IDs to enroll their children, okay? Now, I wasn't gonna argue with the school staff. I said to them, I said, you know what? I'll speak to Dr. Battle about it. And just as Dr. Battle was walking by, she heard me say that. Well, Dr. Battle said, oh no, it's state law. You need to show an ID. And my daughter was with me at the time, and she said, let's not do this in front of your daughter. And I said, no, standing up for civil rights is the exact thing you want to do in front of your children. Well, we went home, and I sent Dr. Battle the actual state law that said, you may ask for an ID, but you may not require an ID. And her response to me was, well, yes, I can ask for an ID. And I said, but you cannot require it. And her response was, thank you. Well, guess what? It's still on the board, Facebook, that you need an ID to enroll your child, okay? Why wasn't that changed? It's clearly against the law to require an ID. Now let's go to JROTC. The last board meeting, Dr. Battle stood up here between 105 and 109, and she said, we did not lose JROTC over budget and we did not change their salaries. A day later, it came out, she reduced their salaries by $25,000. She sat up here and lied to veterans, to students, to the community. And nobody on the board reprimanded her. It is on public record on YouTube, and nobody reprimanded her. I yield my time.
Appreciate that. We're down to Hugo Byrne.
You, Byrne.
Hugo Byrne. Hugo, I'm sorry.
Good evening. My name's Hugh Byrne. I'm the VFW commander here in Casa Grande. First, I want to congratulate the students that earned those awards. Job well done. And the principal said that's why we're here. Well, he's absolutely correct. That's why we're here. You can't, just unequivocally, that's why we're here. That's why we're talking about the JROTC program. And I'm at a point right now because of, unfortunately, this can be difficult. The information you're getting, Dr. Battle, is not accurate. Or there's something else going on. Right now, we have one candidate that has applied, that got brought to the school. He has not been talked to since August 30th. There was no appointment set up for Friday. Nothing's done. This is as of 15 minutes ago. The other candidate that we have going has not even submitted his application to Headquarters Marine Corps to date. It's a 45-day to 60-day process because of security clearance that has to go through. That's a requirement by Headquarters Marine Corps. So we're looking at a minimum of, before this candidate can come to on board, is 60 days. And it's an unfortunate thing. It really is. And there's no other way around it. And it's something that we have to try to put other plans in place, which I've offered my services for, to assist in this JROTC program. But the one candidate we do have, we need to expedite this. We need to make this a priority. Now, obviously, it hasn't been so far. He has all his paperwork in, has everything needed to be hired. Obviously, he has to wait for the fingerprints and stuff to come back from NCIS. But other than that, he's ready to go. But he hasn't even had an interview yet. So it's a moot point at this point to say he's going to be hired because you haven't even seen him face to face. So let's get our act together, people. Come on, please. I'm asking you to help. Please. These parents need the help. These students need the help. We're willing to help. Let's get this done. Let's quit messing around. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate that. Thank you for that. We are down to item 6, which is matters reserved for board action. We have the ASBA policies revisions that we went through this evening.
Make a motion, we approve the ASBA policy revisions as presented in our earlier session.
There's a motion by Chuck and a second by Joe. Any other questions? If not, Mayor, we'll go ahead and call for the vote.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hennessy?
Yes.
Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Yes.
We are down to item B, which is the Casper Union High School nurse and CNA salary schedule. Matt, do you want to,
Mr. President, board, first, I want to comment that you'll have 2 items for the.
I want to speak next
That
board
was the
meeting.
first read action item. There will be a second read action item as required by law. So don't be shocked on a future board meeting when that comes back for second read. In relation to CGUHSD nurses and CNA salary schedule, we have had trouble filling a staff member position at Casper Union High School. And as a result, we're trying to modify and update Castlemaine union salary schedules as we move along. This is our first attempt in the Human Resources Department to get to what they call a stepless salary schedule. It gives school districts more alignment to be able to be market-based in their reactions, things regarding annual compensation raises that are applied, as well as compensation to attract people into the district. So this is an effort to attract the highest quality candidates into the nursing profession and CNA profession within our district. We currently have one nurse at Vista Grande, one nurse that's been open at Casa Grande, Union, and then a CNA at each site as well. Recommend approval.
The motion, Matt recommends to put us in competition to be able to have an actual, to have nurses. This is what the range we need to be at.
Correct, the range you were at was $40,000 to $66,000, and that is well below the range of other school districts in the Maricopa County and Canal County region. So this new salary range puts you in a competitive market.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve FY 2022 for nurse and CNA salary
Motion
schedule?
made to approve the nurse and salary, CNA salary schedule.
Second.
There's a motion by Chuck and a second by Kelly. Any other questions? If not, Mayor, we'll call for that vote, please.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hennis?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Harrington?
Yes.
We're down to item number C, which is the rooftop and land donation forms. This is something that all districts do with development, encourage, et cetera, to try and get some kind of cash flow back to the district as houses turn.
Yes, sir. And you've had agreements in the past, and given the growth of Casa Grande, and our coordination with the elementary school district and a number of meetings with the city, this is a developer's agreement we'd like to have you approve.
What were the date of those agreements in the past?
They were 2007, Ms. Salazar? Yeah,
Okay.
2007.
They were old. It was right, it was right before it was before it cratered is when it was. Yeah, no, I remember. I remember. Did we even get paid?
Sometimes, not on any
I
of
don't-
those.
Not on any of those. Yeah, that's exactly.
I know we had one back in, with the Muse deal back in, the late nineties, we had, or maybe it was 2000 that we put one in too. So, I don't know.
Okay, and is there a move to approve the rooftop and land donation forms as presented?
So moved.
It's a motion by Chuck and a second by Joe. Any other question? And that is 1,000 per family, rooftop, and 500 per multi-apartment. Is that correct? That is correct. Mary, call for the vote, please.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hennis?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Harrington?
Yes.
Item D, Matt, you might just kind of explain just this construction at risk contract that we're going in for the PACE. That was one of the questions we had about clarification about what PACE is, what ANOVA is, and what PACE is anticipated to be as far as into the future.
Mr. President, members of the board, the reason we're recommending construction manager risk is because we think there's financial advantages to go for construction manager risk as opposed to a job contract, a job contract, or selected bidders list is another method you can pursue construction services through. In order to support PACE, which is a new school with the district standing up for career exploration pathways, here at the district office, you're going to need to do some renovations at the district office. Something that needs to be really clear to the public on this is you will see construction. If we make it through the CMAR process and the board approves the award of CMAR, you will see construction district office. Please understand that that construction is student space. Why is it so important to have student space here? Well, that's where PACE is going to be housed. Second of all, we do anticipate growth from 4,100 kids all the way up to 4,700 kids over the course of the next 5 years. And so your campuses are just going to become more and more crowded. So let's get back to construction manager at risk. We have no drawings yet, 0 drawings. And when you're that early on the CD and DD phase of things, you don't have enough power to go out and do a job contract because you don't know what jobs you're specifically ordering. And so what we want to do is bring the CMAR in. The CMAR works on a team with us and an architect, and we work together to develop the drawings that are desired to deliver this educational program at PACE. We'll be back to the board with a guaranteed maximum price. So as we work through drawings, Well, the CMAR is at risk because they're not getting paid. They're showing up for meetings, not getting paid, showing up for meetings, not getting paid. Then we bring back to the board what a guaranteed maximum price might be. When that, if and when the board approves the guaranteed maximum price, they're then gonna be at risk to deliver the product, deliver the drawings at the price they set. If the labor market goes through the roof, if supplies go through the roof, they're still bound to the guaranteed maximum price. So there's two reasons they're at risk here. They're gonna provide us pre-construction services, right, for which they're at risk because they may not get a reward because they might get through some drawings and say, hey, this process is just becoming too expensive for our capital budget. The second reason they're at risk is once we get to GMP, board approved GMP, they're at risk to deliver the product as is, as in drawings, to the district for the first floor here where we imagine PACE could be. This is just a release of the CMAR. We will then get bids in from several different GCs, general contractors, and we will evaluate those bids according to a rubric. And the person who makes it through the rubric according to the committee will be assigned, or recommended to assign by the board. I do want to let you know the committee is designed by procurement law. We have to have certain elements to the committee. We have to have a general contractor who's not a member of the district community. We have to have an architect who's not the architect on the actual services. So that's kind of the general CMAR process. If you have questions, I will take them. This is just for the release of CMAR.
Do we know how many square feet is involved with it?
Yeah, so the downstairs, if you're gonna renovate the whole thing, could be as much as 7,500 to 10,000 square feet we wanna renovate. At
This building?
What's that? At this building.
At this building, okay.
And that includes the cafeteria space.
Okay.
And so, we could get into a conversation centered around funding as well.
Where Bowie Plumbing used to be. Okay.
So-
That area. Now, does the, I know we don't know who the CMAR is yet, we're gonna go out to bid for that. But do they generally, I know that they usually have their favorite architect that they like to work with. So it might be a team, or are we aiming to keep them separate?
We select,
CMAR and the architect.
we select architects off a consortium bid. So consortiums, one GPA, Mojave, have already procured and received responses from architects throughout the state of Arizona to provide the lowest possible pricing to school districts. And therefore, using that procurement vehicle makes it an easy process to select the architect. So in short, yes, there are GCs that like to work with certain architects. Yes, there are certain architects that like to work with GCs. The architect is only one vote on the CMAR interview committee, and the CMAR is not going to get selected until after we select the architect. And so we're in control of who we select in terms of architect and CMAR.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so we, a motion to approve the release of an RFP for 2023 for the CMAR as presented.
So moved.
Chuck moved, Kelly seconded. Without any other further questions, Mayor, call for the vote, please.
Mr. Lopez?
Reluctantly, yes.
Mr. Hannah?
Yes.
And Mr. Wright?
Yes.
And Mrs. Barrington?
Yes.
Terms and conditions for acceptance of monies from building renewal grant.
Standard terms and condition sheet from the building renewal grant team. We have to get those board approved in order for us to accept monies. This is for the Children's of Vista Grandy, bringing in about $500,000 of funds from the state, as opposed to using our own funds to do this project.
Yeah, we want somebody else to pay for the children up here. There's no question about that. Is there a motion to approve this? Chuck moved. Joe seconded. Any other questions? Mayor, we'll call for the vote, please.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hannah?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
And Mrs. Barrington?
Yes.
I assume item M is our annual resolution that we have to have with county, so we can do wire transfers, money move, et cetera, between us and the district. Is there a motion to approve that as presented? Kelly moved. Joe seconded. Any other questions on that? If not, we'll go ahead and take the vote, Mary, please.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hannah?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mrs. Barrington?
Yes.
We are down to item G, which is superintendent goals and performance, and this had been tabled in the past, and this is just, the board needs to approve this. you've met all of the parameters that were associated with that. This is basically a formality to approve this. So is there a motion to approve the 2021-2022 superintendent schools for performance pay as presented?
I'll move to approve the 2021-22 superintendent's goals or performance pay as presented.
There's a motion by Kelly. Is there a second?
No, second.
There's a second by Joe. Any other questions?
Your discussion.
Sure.
Dr. Bell's got a good plan here. I believe she has indicated that she met all four categories that she did. I really don't have any doubt that she did that. Dr. Bell is a great program writer. She's good at her job. And we've had a discussion about tweaking this program for this coming year. What this plan doesn't say, it doesn't take into consideration the human factor that went into making all this work. And part of the human factor is maybe it's some dispute with Sean about the amount of personnel that we lost. However many, we did lose personnel, and they did have an effect on this performance. But on the flip side here, in spite of the personnel that we lost, Dr. Battle still got her goal completed. I mean, I think that says something for the woman who set out to do what to do. It's unfortunate that we had the loss of personnel in this process, but you have to take your hat off to her because she still satisfied all four of these categories of goals. You may not like the fact that we lost all these personnel, but the goals have been satisfied. So I gotta say, we gotta honor this plan and order the performance plan.
Yeah, she met the criteria that was in her contract that we had signed and agreed to. So obviously that's so any other questions? If not, Mayor, will call for the vote, please.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hannah?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
And Mrs. Harrington?
Yes.
We are down to item H, which is authorized signatures on the commercial accounts signature card. I guess we have needed to update that, is what we need to do.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
We approve the signature changes and upgrades.
You have a motion by Chuck. Is there a second to approve that? Kelly seconded. Any other questions? If not, we'll go ahead and call for the vote.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hannah?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mrs. Harrington?
Yes.
This is an agreement between University of Arizona and Dr. Bell. Maybe you can speak to this. This is so they can place student teachers?
Yes, student teachers, interns. We actually have a student from University of Arizona who wants to be her superintendent intern with the leadership team. We'll talk more specific if the board approves, but this allows for all of that to take place in Cass County High School District.
Okay, is there a motion to approve that with the University of Arizona? Motion by Kelly. Is there a second?
Sure.
Joe seconded. Any other discussion? Any way we can get more teachers in the classroom is a winner. So, Mary, call for the vote, please.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hannah?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mrs. Harrington?
Yes.
We're down to donations, and Chuck, you are very thankful and did a nice job telling folks.
I think that, this is kind of cool because at the last meeting, this couple donated the Honda, and now they're coming back and they're donating a set of 4 tires for the recently donated 1990 Honda Accord valued at $260 from Arizona, from Anna Chambers, CGUHSD Chalmers, automotive tech program. I got 70-year-old eyes.
I have a motion by Chuck to accept the donation as presented with our huge thanks to them. And there's a second by Joe. Call for the vote, Mary, if we would, please.
Mr. Lopez.
Yes.
Mr. Hennis.
Yes.
Mr. Wright.
Yes.
And Ms. Harrington.
Yes.
We are down to item 7, which is a consent agenda, and that has items A through F. Is there anything anybody's wishing to?
I got a question on personnel for Mr. Strom. In relation to your salary schedule for your RN, I see we filled that position. But I saw that on your salary schedule, for the 9 months, it's 9.5 months on your salary schedule. But on the person that we hired for the RN, it's only indicated for 9 months. Is there a reason there?
That's just a discrepancy. It's the same contract, it's a 206-day contract.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
just an adjustment we need to make.
So I move that we approve consent agenda A through F in its entirety.
There's a motion by Chuck. Is there a second? Kelly seconded. And I guess the only other thing I was gonna point out is, the on-time bus time, that they're about 82% or something like that, or
88%
88,
average.
is that what it was?
Yeah.
Thanks, Chuck. 88%, so, and hopefully they're improving.
Yeah, there's two issues that we have with on time. First of all, we want to make sure that we're actually getting the GPS reported data. We've actually asked for that on Route 2. Gina's working on getting the Route 2 GPS data. It's the most accurate data, so we can do our own analysis of how often they're showing up on time. But yes, second of all, 88% is below what we deem acceptable. We typically want to run at 95% or higher in the transportation industry.
And we appreciate that, and we would, that for our students, we would expect nothing less than, I think that's one of the things we pointed out, so, addressing that there. So you've had, a motion by Chuck and Kelly seconded the consent agenda. Mayor, call for the vote, please.
Okay, Mr. Lopez.
Yes.
Mr. Hennis.
Yes.
Mr. Wright.
Yes.
And Mrs. Harrington.
Yes.
Seeing no further to come before the board today, we will adjourn. It is 8:32. Thank you, everybody, for being here this evening.
Okay.